Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Team found out shortly before kickoff that you were eliminated from the playoffs. We have seen some huge defensive plays. How motivated are you guys?
Yeah, we don't want them to go, so that's our motivation.
Here's a blitz. Can Rodgers beat it? Big ball downfield, and it is intercepted by Kirby Joseph. Joseph out of bounds around the 45. He's got Rodgers for the third time, and the Packers are in major trouble.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hi, welcome into a Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco and Beards heading up until 2 o'clock. We've got you for the next 4 hours, talking some NFL football, maybe some college football along the way, some college basketball, a lot of stuff to get into. Jam-packed show today. We will hear from the Chiefs today. Coming up at around 1 o'clock or so, we'll hear from Andy Reid. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes, and we will hear from Justin Reid today. So not a typical Monday for the Chiefs where you would hear Andy Reid and that is it, and then wait till Wednesday to hear from the players along with Andy Reid. But we'll get 2 players and Andy Reid today because it is not a typical week because the Chiefs have the bye. They took care of business, did what they needed to do against the Raiders, and then some. Not only getting the win, but looking really good in doing it and heading into the postseason with some positive feels, some positive vibes around the way they play defensively, offensively, special teams. You know, you need all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, if you're going to want to win in the NFL and win on the road and be the number 1 seed. You got to do all of those. You got to take your hard hat and pack your lunch if you're going to be winning in the NFL. Apparently they did all of those things. So 913-3810810. We'll take your phone calls. In the first couple of hours, we'll mix in Field Yates as well. Field Yates usually at noon. We'll talk with him coming up at 11 o'clock today, our ESPN NFL insider, Field Yates. We'll talk with him about, just looking at the season for the Chiefs from where they were in the offseason, the expectations of what they could be. No Tyreek Hill, a step-back year, a rebuild, a retool year, and they have a 14-3 record in the number 1 seed in the AFC, a bye, and we'll see who they end up matching up against a week from this weekend. So we'll talk with Field about that. Also, looks like the MVP is Patrick Mahomes. We'll see if he agrees. Coach of the Year is a really interesting discussion because it feels like it's going to be Nick Sirianni's. They get the number 1 seed. But I'm not sure that Doug Peterson making the playoffs or Brian Daboll making the playoffs or Pete Carroll making the playoffs or Kyle Shanahan winning, 13 games with Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo. He used 3 different quarterbacks this year to get to that spot. So a lot of deserving coaches of the year. I think it'll probably be Nick Sirianni. We'll talk with Field Yates about that, what this season means for. And it felt like everybody was rooting for the Lions last night. Maybe it was because of Hard Knocks. Maybe it's because they bite kneecaps off. Maybe it was rooting against the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Maybe it was rooting for drama. Whatever it was, last night it felt like America's team was Detroit and not Dallas. That there was the Lion, the Restore the Roar was being rooted for more than the star on the helmet for America. So that was interesting and fun last night. 913-3810810 again is the phone number. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation, to weigh in and join us. So Field Yates coming up at 11 o'clock, and then Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Reid in the 1 o'clock hour. And we think maybe Mick Schaefer coming up at noon with some Learn Funniest Best. We'll let you know. You'll find out at noon, I guess, or earlier when we find out. So we may or may not be joined by Mick Schaefer. I'm just very interested to hear.
Week 18, you shuffle around your roster sometimes, and the kickoff times can move.
Yeah.
So,
did he earn the bye this week as well?
I think Mick Schaefer's more than earned the bye.
Yeah.
I think he's Frankly, maybe an undefeated season. I don't even know that he needed to play in Week 18 to secure that bye.
Dolphins players from the 70s still waiting to pop that champagne for Mick Schaefer.
I don't think they can do it.
Working on an undefeated season is Mick Schaefer. So that's how the show lines up. Let's get into the show. 913-381-0810. I didn't think on a Monday after the season was over, on January 9th on Monday, if you'd have asked me what we would be talking about in July when training camp started. Hey, what are you guys talking about Monday, January 9th? I'd say we'd be breaking down what the matchups are that weekend for the Chiefs. We'd be talking about whether or not the Chiefs have a home game or if they're on the road because of the division. I picked the Chiefs to win the division, so my guess would have been they have a home game. Are they the 3 seed? Are they the 2 seed? The 4 seed? We would find out, but this was and then we'd be talking about whatever is going on offensively with this team and what they look like. And on January 9th, we're talking about the Chiefs having a different week because they have the bye, because they have a 14-win season in their franchise history. One extra game, but the most wins that they've had with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback and Andy Reid as the coach. And they did that in a year where it was supposed to be a step back and a retool, and they were going to reconfigure everything, and they needed to get deeper instead of being so top-heavy and being so expensive. And you can't just simply have the highest-paid player at all these different positions. You can't have the highest-paid quarterback, even though they don't have the quarterback, but highest-paid, quarterback and wide receiver and defensive tackle and maybe even, a tight end and left tackle. What we were looking at, what the Chiefs might be, this year, next year, the year after that, and getting into that cap situation. So they needed to get deeper, and they needed to be better across the board, but they had to take a step back offensively, we thought. And instead, it's a 14-3 season. It's Patrick Mahomes MVP. It's the most combined yards for a quarterback in NFL history. It's a number 1 offense. And it is the team that's the favorite now to win the conference, which they haven't been all year. It's been a long road, and really, even when the Chiefs were winning and they had the 1 seed, if I'm thinking back, my memory serves me correct, I believe Buffalo was still at that point the favorite to win the conference, the favorite to win the AFC. And now, today, the Chiefs are the favorite to win the AFC. Makes sense. They're the only team with a bye. You'd probably have that any year. The number 1 team in that conference is then the betting favorite to win their conference. But it took a while for them to get there, and it has been Buffalo almost the entire season. And maybe it would have been Buffalo if they continued playing that game on Monday night. Maybe Buffalo, comes back and wins. They had 55 more minutes to play in that game. Really, 56 more minutes to play, essentially. And so I guess like 50 minutes, I should say. So they had a lot of time left, even though they were only down 7-3. There's a lot of game to be played. So maybe we would be talking about Buffalo, the number 1 seed, but we're not. The Chiefs are, and they head into this week being able to get healthy, and it's an automatic win. And these other teams that we'll watch, and we'll see who wins. And I think the home teams outside of the Jags will win this weekend. So I think home teams will go 2-1, and even in the NFC, sort of the same thing. It's that Jags-Chargers game, but I'm not fully convinced, that the Chargers are going to go to Jacksonville and win as much as I was convinced last week. I talked about with Matt Derrick. I said, look, I'm convinced that it's going to be Chargers and Chiefs in the divisional round. But we can have a conversation about what in the hell Brandon Staley was doing yesterday with his Chargers in a game that was meaningless, and it became meaningful because Mike Williams couldn't walk yesterday.
Just a flesh wound. I mean,
other than
no biggie.
Back injury.
He walked to the team bus fine on his own, right? Oh, hold on. Oh, he didn't. Okay, never mind. That seems bad.
Well, he walked to the locker room, though, right?
Had to. Almost certainly.
Yeah, because he walked to the sideline.
Because, the rest of the guys kept playing after that. There's no way that...
Yeah.
I mean, and Joey Bosa didn't get banged up and leave early. Oh, he did.
Oh, wait.
Oh, man. Boy, that's crazy. Well, I guess that's why they played Justin Herbert. They pulled Justin Herbert after just a little bit of work.
Yeah, right.
Oh, he played like almost until the very end.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, at least once Chase Daniel got out there, he wasn't throwing the ball to Keenan Allen. Are you kidding me? He what?
Well, it was a matter of winning the game.
That's right. You wanted to win, and so you put that's what you call your timeouts.
Yeah, so they call timeouts at the end to stop. Oh wait, they didn't call timeouts.
They didn't call it. What was the point, Brandon?
So did it mean something or not mean something?
Brandon, I just want to talk.
But resting the guys to Brandon Staley means that you might lose some of that momentum. You can get, a little off kilter. What was he going to play a scrimmage if they got the bye week? If they're the number 1 seed next year, was he going to play in a scrimmage against the team that lost in the semifinal? Is Michigan and the Chargers are going to scrimmage against each other so that the Chargers and play his players, even though Brandon Staley, with Brandon Staley as the coach, Justin Herbert has never taken a snap in the preseason. He has never taken a snap in the preseason. Games that Brandon Staley clearly feels are meaningless and they don't need to get ramped up for the regular season. But week 18, game 17, that is meaningless. You got to play those guys because you need to be ready to go in the playoffs. You don't need to be ready to go for game number 1 or game number 2 or game number 3. It was a weird game yesterday for Brandon Staley. He catches a lot of heat for 4th down decisions and things like that, which I think are overblown, but he deserves every single shot that is headed his way after yesterday's game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in Jacksonville. I know this. I know there's one side that will have the distinct, decided coaching advantage, and that will be the Jaguars against the Chargers this weekend. Does it mean that Trevor Lawrence will play well? I don't know. He didn't play well against the Titans. Did not play well at all. It was a defensive score that ended up giving Jacksonville the win over Tennessee, and we're talking about the Jags going to the Super Bowl and not the Titans, and somehow Mike Vrabel getting that team to the playoffs to win that division without Tannehill, and then Malik Willis being pretty bad, and then Josh Dobbs just, being a guy in there. But yeah, it was an interesting game on Saturday night. Wasn't necessarily entertaining, but it certainly was interesting. But the Chiefs take care of business, and they do that against the Raiders. Is this the game that, we talked with Kent Swanson on Thursday, and he said, I don't really care how they play. Doesn't matter to me how they play. Just get the win and get the bye and then head into the postseason. So with that being said, Kent can then not go, well, I'm glad they really played well because that matters. He's now lost every right.
Absolutely.
Kent, you've lost every right to say it was meaningful at all the way they played. Did it matter to you how they played? They went out and they score on their opening drive, a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Now the 4th time they've done that. They did only 3 times heading into the game that they scored a touchdown on their opening drive.
Crazy.
3 out of their first 4 drives were touchdowns. The offense started fast. It hasn't done that really this year. The defense put together maybe their best performance of the season with the 6 sacks and what they did against the run and then in the secondary. Did you feel like this game, not necessarily needed, but was a welcome sight heading into the postseason, maybe for your concern or nerves or anxiety or just anticipation of the postseason?
This game was an appetizer.
Like
you don't need it. You hope you get the best food possible with the entree when the main course arrives. That's what you're really there for. But boy, it sure would be nice if our only options for our appetizers this last month or so hadn't just been 1 glass of warm water. Because it kind of feels like that's what we've been drinking while we've been waiting for the main course this year. It's just been like, okay, fine. No, look, I'm here for the main course. I can just gnaw on 1 slice of old bread, but I can't believe you needed overtime to beat the Texans. Like, that's what this last month or so has been. When you asked last week, what matters more, the results or how you get there? I think it's evident because you're talking about seeding and everything. Mm-hmm. The results are the most important thing because you can't have the first round bye if you lose close games. But boy, I think everybody from me to Kent would all be a liar if we said it didn't feel nice to watch a football game like that where you just kind of went, oh, I recognize this team. I've seen this football team play before. Nice. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. They do fun things in the backfield sometimes, spin around a bunch. Jerick McKinnon catches touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes is really accurate, although his final stat line, 202 yards. You would have dropped me dead out of the sky to see that out of context. Didn't feel like that was going to be his stat line at all. I saw it after the game. I was not paying attention to his stats until then. Wait a second. Is that right? I refreshed the page again. But you get an offense that just seems to be working. You get some nice moments and some big plays from Kadarius Toney. You run the ball at the end of the game, and Isaiah Pacheco has a nice long run that boosts his stat line. Ronald Jones out there, the closer, just like we've always assumed. You actually get a couple Chad Henne's kneel downs, and it just felt, and that's all of that is secondary to me, to what the front four in particular did to that Raiders offensive line, what they did to Jarrett Stidham in this game. And the special teams were the third unit I mentioned, which is a win in and of itself, because we just needed to stop talking about what happens when the foot hits the football, and we don't have to from this game. It was effective, it was efficient, it was fun, it was clean. It was a really quality appetizer that's going to hold me over for 2 more weeks.
100%. 100%. I like the description of it being an appetizer. Is it mozzarella sticks or is it some calamari?
I'm going to have to think about that some more.
Spin dip is, the spinning play in the backfield, so maybe it is the spin dip.
I was thinking Espinachos from Johnny's because I
like
am
those.
a company man. And
Wilson wings.
And maybe it's both. Look, here's the thing. Here's what it is. The offense brought you the Espinachos.
Okay.
High ceiling, high expectations. They hit them. The defense brought you the Wilson wings. Maybe you don't get that every time, but when you do, my God, you're glad you did. And the special teams just brought you a cold drink with some ice in it. And you're like, that was my expectation. Thank you very much.
That's all I wanted. That's all I needed.
That's all I've ever wanted.
You didn't have to go above and beyond.
I don't need a milkshake from you, Tobe. I just would like a night, just a soda on ice.
Didn't need an old fashioned. I didn't need it. No.
No. That's right.
Water.
I
don't need you making 60-yard field goals or anything. I just need to put the extra point through the uprights, punt it down inside the 10-yard line, hold the ball, make a field goal if need be, and then everybody shake hands, tip your cap, pat on the back, go to the showers, and get ready for 2 weeks.
I don't need Sky Moore trying to pour my shot from like 15 feet up while underneath Tommy Townsend's doing the shaker thingy. No.
Flipping the bottles and everything behind it.
Could I just get a cold Diet Dr. Pepper on the table, please?
I don't need you dropping the shot glass and sliding it all the way down the bar to somebody that then catches it. I don't need all of that
Who
stuff.
wants a Jaeger bomb? No, nobody. I'd like a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Sir, I asked for a water. Sir, this is a Wendy's. I'm not sure why you're doing this right now. So, yes, I like that. I love that description of what the Chiefs were yesterday. And I do appreciate the fact that it feels like Mahomes has wrapped up the MVP. My bank account certainly appreciates that fact that it feels like Patrick Mahomes has wrapped up the MVP. But the final line didn't feel like what the game was.
Sitting here for post-game, and we were late because we had the KU game and everything.
That's right, yeah.
I just hadn't looked at the box score until we were starting the show because, frankly, it's not very impactful for how I watched the game, right? But I like to know what the final stat line is. I'm not kidding. When I had it up, the show was going, and I was like refreshing the page, going,
All right,
202 does not seem right. But then I saw six sacks for Jarrett Stidham, and I was like, oh, that was what it was. So I guess that's what the final box score. How'd that happen?
Yeah, the MVP is going to make up for my live betting for Chiefs yesterday because that did not work out so well. Because as the game was going along, I'm like, okay, these numbers are pretty low.
Yeah.
All right, Mahomes is now sitting at like 245. Yeah, I'll take the over on that. That's like
felt good about
that's like a couple passes for him. Kelsey is now down to like 54.5 receiving. Yeah, he needs receptions. He wants to get some receptions there to maybe get to record and all that stuff. No? Okay. Well, that's not a big deal. I mean, McKinnon's going to go out there and have a couple more receptions because they're, shorter passes. Like, he's going to have more than a couple receptions. So I'll take the over 3.5 in this one, live betting here.
33% of Patrick Mahomes' yards in this game came on that first drive pass to Justin Watson. Just that pass, 67 of 202. That's 33 repeating.
Yeah, it wasn't a great day in live betting. It's been a really good day most of the year in live betting the Chiefs because I think when we watch the game, we get a better feel of like what they're doing and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I felt great about the live bets this year.
But
didn't touch this one. Just got lucky.
Not good on Saturday. Yesterday, Saturday, whatever day they played. I'm not sure. This is the day after or the first show after they played. But yeah, so it was to me, it was an impressive win. We didn't know what the Raiders would look like. We didn't know how they would come out and play.
Chiefs defense better than the Niners defense. I'll say it.
That's what I've been saying all year. Spagnuolo can take Yersin and beat Hisin and take Hisin and beat Yersin.
I think he should get all of the head coaching interviews that D'Amico Ryans is about to get.
Mm-hmm. Dan Quinn, there has been a request to interview Dan Quinn by the Denver Broncos.
I think the Denver Broncos have put in a request with about every assistant coach or former head coach.
Yeah, this is the latest one. Dan Quinn has been talked about and connected with Denver for a while, so it's one of those coaches. We'll see who ends up being the head coach there. Sean Payton is also talked about. So
they've got official requests in for D'Amico Ryans, Dan Quinn, Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, and Raheem Morris right now.
Okay, that's it.
I actually don't think that is it. But those are the ones that I have in front of me right now.
Just the ones that are public right now.
Yeah, correct.
It's like when during the draft season, when the Chiefs bring in players for workouts and they get 20 workouts, 25 workouts, whatever it might be, 25 players they can bring in. It's like, well, they brought in 11 that I know of because those have been the ones that have been put out by different sites or reporters. They've brought in at least 11. They might be at 18 or 19. I don't know. I know they've got 11. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We will.
Very quickly,
yes.
I just had somebody call in a second ago. He wants us to somehow get a tracker put on Carl Cheffers and his crew. Basically, I'm just imagining this like the Elon Jet Twitter.
Yeah.
Where it gives updates on where Cheffers is and what games he's going to.
Let's hope it's not in KC any time of the next couple of weeks. Well, if he was in KC this weekend, I don't care. He can be in KC all he wants this weekend and just hang out and get some barbecue. But then that's it. That's his last trip to KC forever.
Let's tell Carl Cheffers that every playoff game is going to be at a neutral site and just have him just go wait in Indianapolis. Oh, God, is the gift from Pulp Fiction. Just walking in an empty room
Travolta,
and John
yes.
Travolta just looking around, just kind of. But it's Carl Cheffers in an empty Lucas Oil Stadium, just looking for a way to call a penalty on Chris Jones.
They told him it was Lucas Oil Stadium, and what is there, like a volleyball tournament or something going on that weekend?
Oh no, he'd ruin that too.
It's like,
keep him away from the poor volleyball players.
I feel like they were in the net. There was nobody within 5 feet. Looked like the net to me.
Holding off it, Carl. This is not. That's not how this sport works.
It was the serve. How is the person in the net? They're not even close to it. It looked like they was in the net. The net moved because of the ball.
Handball on the... Carl, come on, man.
Carl, this is a chess tournament.
Unreal.
Checkmate.
Chefmate?
We haven't even started. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. 913-381-1080 if you want to weigh in. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at 11 o'clock. 913-912-4810. Get some texts as well. I do want to look at the playoffs, what the wild card round has looked like the last 5 years. Teams with a bye the last 5 years, home teams, road teams, things like that. Break down what this weekend might be and what it could mean for the Chiefs and the Eagles, both of those teams with the bye this year. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
They've been firm up front.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
913-912-4810. Let's hear from Andy Reid before 1 o'clock when we'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Reid. Andy Reid weighing in on the 1 seed and what it means for this team, franchise, the benefit of being the 1 seed this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I mean, you still got to take care of business. Our guys understand that. We'll give them a few days off there next week, and then get them back in and towards the end of the week and get some practice in there, but and then start the regular week after that. But to just take a step back and get yourself where you feel stronger and healthier, so on. So mentally and physically is a good thing.
You get the automatic win. I mean, there's no breaking down the game this weekend. There's no talking about what the Vegas line is, the home team, the road team. Is Carl Sheffers refereeing the game? You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You sit back, you watch, and teams go through playoff games that can come down to a play here or there. You don't get injured. You don't have to worry about that stuff. You just sit back and watch. You rest your mind. You rest your body. And so, yeah, it's a big freaking deal. We talked about it last week. If they were given the choice of the 1 seed that was at least thought of or discussed at one time, that the 1 seed gets the choice of bye week or home field advantage, you take the bye week, and then you see where the chips fall after that, and see where the AFC Championship game is going to be, because the Chiefs are 2-2 at home in the AFC Championship game. So it isn't like they're 4-0 and they just win every single game at Arrowhead. No, they're 2-2. So you take that bye week. That's the biggest deal that they have. We haven't talked about, really discussed, Snow Globe or Ring Around the Rosie,
Arctic Circle, reindeer personnel.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet. Let's hear from Andy Reid, the spinning huddle, play, toss, throwback, BS holding call. Holding, why? Well,
I got afraid.
He hit him really hard on the ground. The guy ended up on the ground.
Taunting.
Penalty, hard hit.
The entire offensive line and everybody.
Penalty, why? Because I've never seen that before. I don't know. Let's hear from Andy Reid on that particular play.
Well, you saw how it ended up. That's the benefit. So it's just to create a little bit of confusion and then line up in something that's not familiar to the opposing team. I thought the guys executed it well. We ended up with the holding call on it, but they did good with it. And the players enjoy doing that stuff. So a little creativity that they come up with these things. So we just throw them out there and let them work them.
That's what I wanted to ask you about that. To some degree, it's for competitive advantage, but at some level, is it still want to just make this fun and creative for them?
You do, but you want to score too. I mean, that's it's not fun when you're not doing that.
You can't get with us again.
Well, we've done it. We've kind of messed around with it in practice, but Pat, we call it the laboratory in there. He gets the guys down there, and then they don't put their name on it. They just bring it to me, and I've got 51% of the vote. So if I like it, we go with it. Well, it was in the Christmas spirit. It was reindeer personnel, and then Arctic Circle.
Reindeer personnel, Arctic Circle. Is it Ring Around the Rosie? Snow Globe. Here's Patrick Mahomes weighing in on both the Snow Globe play and also Colin Saunders, who was in on a play. And I thought if Mahomes had held it just a little bit longer, Saunders was there in the back of the end zone. But here's Mahomes weighing in on that play along with the play we were just talking about.
I told Colin, I was like, I'm pretty sure Trav was wide open as my second read, but I was just like, I got to give him a chance. And there was like a linebacker almost stumbled. I don't know if he'd have caught it. He actually has really good hands, but I don't know about his vertical, so I don't know if I'd have been able to throw him a jump ball. Yeah, we work on stuff throughout the entire season, and then try to call it in the right moments. And Coach Reid gives us some freedom to do some of our own flair to it. And so that circle one was one that we had kind of we had ran some plays like it, and we talked about it on the side, and we were like, hey, let's see if we do this, get some confusion going to throw something back. And all the things, it has to work, and it worked. We just got the holding penalty. So we'll have to get some good stuff going for the playoffs, and whenever we run it has to work.
Patrick, how much was the circle play? First of all, was it snow globe or Arctic Circle? And second, how much did you have to say in how that got designed to begin with?
Yeah, it's a combination. It's like reindeer personnel, Arctic Circle, snow globe. I just call it snow globe's easiest way to. That's why I said it out there. It's the easiest way to say it. It's a long play call, but it was something we had kind of practiced on actually last year, of doing that kind of getting confusion going and getting to the line and snapping it. We didn't get the chance to run it last year. It kind of got thrown, not away, but you kind of, as you season gets started up, you go back to the basics. And as the season went back on, I was like kind of nudging Coach Reed. I was like, hey, let's bring it back in a different way. And we didn't have that throwback on it the last time we ran it. So hopefully we can maybe do it again and get back to whatever we ran last time and get another touchdown.
Offenses in the NFL and play calling is so convoluted and confusing. And, in college, like, you're discredited because you might read off of a wristband, or like, hey, play 78. You guys know what play 78. Everybody's got their wristbands or whatever. That was reindeer personnel called like snow globe or Arctic Circle. But even that, Mahomes was like, well, it's a long play call. Even that one play you're working on and doing all of those things specific to that. Well, yeah, but there's reindeer personnel, it's Arctic Circle, snow globe, but it was a long play call. I don't really want to get into all of that. We just called it snow globe. That seems easy enough to just say, hey, guys, let's go run snow globe. Okay, great. Hook and ladder. Hey, annexation of Puerto Rico. Let's go. Let's run the play. Fumblerooski. Let's run the play we've been working on. Do you really need all of those, convoluted terms and everything that are there? Snow globe, Arctic Circle. A lot of people wondering, wheels on the bus, victory lap because of the Raiders. And that was a common question that was there, but I think that was answered with Patrick Mahomes saying that last year they were working on it. And this was something they were doing last year, but they didn't have a chance to run it last year. So it wasn't specifically, let's create a play for the Raiders and so we can get back at them, and one where we're spinning like wheels on a bus or like a roulette table or something, and really have some fun with them and disrespect the Raiders because they came and stomped at midfield before getting punked. And then some smart aleck bus driver made John Gruden do a victory lap or something like that.
But also bleep the Raiders.
Also that too.
You notice Andy Reid never does this against like the Jaguars.
No, it's
always the Broncos and it's always the Raiders.
This is, I think, is a really good take because I felt like the Colin Saunders play especially, I was, of course, getting Dontari Poe flashbacks, and I couldn't remember if the pass was against the Raiders or Broncos. I knew it was one of the two. It was against the Broncos. I don't know what it is, but I do think Andy Reid brings... I'm going to have to see if we can get some empirical evidence to support this, but my feeling is that Andy Reid absolutely brings out the borderline disrespectful trick plays that the guys come up with in late season games against divisional opponents.
When they're dead, when their season is dead already,
yes,
and they're already defeated.
Yes, stop, they're already dead.
Yeah,
here's a 400-pound man in the backfield.
Yes.
They did the Rose Bowl though in the Super Bowl.
That's true. Absolutely.
They did the pirouette.
That one was
Bowl.
like, that one was. They're not going to see this coming. Maybe look, if they have Colin Saunders throw a pass in the Super Bowl, then I'll be here for that just as eagerly. But I feel like Beards is right. The teeth come out against divisional opponents.
I said this about the Warriors when the Warriors first, came onto the scene, and they were changing the calculus of basketball and hitting a bunch of threes and doing that, and it was a lot of fun to watch them play and everything. And Steph shooting the ball and then turning around and running down the court the other way, and Klay Thompson and Splash Brothers. That there was going to come a time when America started to root against the Warriors because they felt like they were just tired of them or cocky, and then it happened. And then it was like, oh, I'm so tired of the Warriors and what they're doing, and blah, 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 blah. And I had said it in 2018 and on in 2019. Said, look, the league and analysts are loving the Chiefs and what they're doing offensively, and Patrick Mahomes, the reigning MVP. It'll happen if the Chiefs continue to have success that the worm will turn, and everybody will then start rooting against or hating on the Chiefs. Rose Bowl in the Super Bowl was talked about, oh, how awesome. Oh, they did that in the Super Bowl. This play in a game that was meaningless to the Raiders, the Chiefs to get the 1 seed, regular season game, is viewed as so disrespectful. And it was ridiculous that the Chiefs, who are so classless, the fan base, the franchise, everything, Patrick Mahomes, everything about the Chiefs, you just cannot stand anymore and totally done with them. And it is the Batman, was it Two-Face, that you either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain?
Yep.
You either have success and fade away in the NFL, or you have success long enough to where people start to hate the things that you do. It was fun at the beginning. Now it's, quote, disrespectful that they're doing some of these fun things. And I think it's great. And I love the different fan bases are looking and grasping at straws to try to find something to talk about the Chiefs with in a negative light. Because outside of the Bengals, they can't do it on the actual field.
I've discovered my new favorite YouTube video of all time. It's 35 seconds long. It's titled Every Dontari Poe Touchdown. And I would like to tell you some incredible news I have just discovered.
What's that?
Rushing touchdown, Los Angeles Chargers. Receiving touchdown, at the time, Oakland Raiders. Passing touchdown, Denver Broncos. Dontari Poe's 3 touchdowns all came out of the backfield against divisional opponents.
Who did they run the Ferrari package against when they broke out Ferrari for the first time with Mahomes in motion?
I don't remember. So
remember
far, I'm
either.
just sort of in a trance of Dontari Poe catching, running, and throwing for a touchdown.
That is amazing that it's AFC West teams. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Dip them in once, flip them over, dip them in again. I don't know.
Oh, a double dip.
I would double dip the baby.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at 11 o'clock, our NFL insider from ESPN. Get his thoughts on the Chiefs, the bye week, the number 1 seed, and then the playoffs coming up this weekend. The games are set, and we'll see who the Chiefs end up matching up against. Do you have a preference? We can get into this a little bit more with Mick Schaefer in the noon hour, but do you have a preference of choose one team to play next? Because I don't know, it was next Saturday, Sunday, this Saturday and Sunday. Is it the next one, or is next Saturday and Sunday the week that would be the divisional round game? Either way, do you have a preference as to who the next opponent would be for the Chiefs?
Any team currently playing their backup quarterback gets a big boost in my book.
I agree.
No disrespect to Skylar Thompson or even to Teddy Bridgewater, but I just think either of those coming to Arrowhead would feel pretty good. I would take the Tyreek Hill return if I could exchange it with a Skylar Thompson Arrowhead game. But whenever if you assume that the Bills are going to handle their business, I don't know that I have a strong opinion between the Chargers and the Jags. It's weird because the Chiefs have played 3 total games against those 2 teams already this year.
I would very much rather see the Jags than the Chargers.
I don't know that I think I probably would agree with you on that, Beards, because I'm a little more bullish on Herbert than Lawrence at this point, but I think they both have similarly incredibly high ceilings. And maybe Trevor Lawrence right now has the lower floor of those two.
One of those teams has played the Chiefs closely this year.
That's true. The Jags have looked a lot better since that time also, but I'm a little bullish on the Jags as an organization. I think the Chargers, if they're somehow healthy by that point, would be the more dangerous team. I wouldn't worry about the Ravens or Dolphins at this point.
The Jags have looked
if
a lot
Lamar's back,
better.
It changes things, but even then, I'd probably take the Ravens.
Like, the Jags have looked a lot better since that particular game, but even in that game, they recovered an onside kick to start the game. That was the game they converted the fake punt, right? Pacheco on the opening drive fumbled down inside the 20-yard line. Those things all happened, and the Chiefs still won by double digits, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think Doug Peterson is a fine coach. And the Jags have some players. I don't think they're there yet.
No, I agree.
27-17 was the final earlier, and so many things went. The Chiefs turned the ball over 3 times. They lost the turnover battle 3-0.
And they lost the number 1 receiver partway through that game.
That's a good point. The turnover they were -3 in that game, and they won by 10. Doesn't mean the same game will happen because, like you said, that was November 13th. Jacksonville's playing better football. Tennessee's got a really good defense. Trevor Lawrence struggled in that game against a really good defense because Tennessee is still alive to make the playoffs since Tannehill went down, and we saw what Tennessee did against the Chiefs with Malik Willis.
No more Cliff Kingsbury.
Oh, really?
He died?
Yeah, you got to. Some more clarification would be good.
He's been fired.
Okay.
Boy, per Schefter here, 10 months ago signed a contract extension through the 2027 season.
This has nothing to do with what we're talking about now, and it's an odd thing. Like, I like the Yahoo app, Yahoo Sports app for, to look up different games and everything. It's what I use the most. I'm most familiar with it. But for some reason, as if you look at the games this weekend, like the wild card game, Saturday night, Chargers-Jags. Chargers with a 10-10 record and the Jags with a 9-12 record. I don't think that's right.
Well, they really did expand the season more than I thought. It felt like this year lasted longer.
I don't think the Seahawks ended up 9-11 and the 49ers 15-5. Field Yates next.
You're in the zone
Like, I didn't wake up this morning and say, I hope Mecole Hardman hurts a groin today.
with Jason Anderson
I hope Mecole Hardman hurts a groin today.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'll take Mecole Hardman's groin. I just feel like that was out of context. I don't think it was, but I feel like it was. I can't prove that it was out of context.
That was the whole segment. You just kept saying it over and over and over again. It was weird.
Even with the
echo.
The echo in the background.
You're incredible. You're on one that day.
It's odd. All right, 913-912-4810. We'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Reid coming up at 1 o'clock. It is a bye week this week for the Chiefs, so a different week in terms of press conference schedules. Those three will talk today, and I believe it'll probably be dark after that the rest of the week. Let's hear from Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider joining us here in the zone on this Monday. Field, how are you, sir?
Jason, what's going on? I appreciate you and appreciate you guys being flexible today. We are on an hour earlier because, full disclosure, I am hosting two shows this afternoon, one of which is an ESPN Plus special on the various coaching movements that have taken place so far today. And while I don't know that we'll have any more head coaching firings, I think it's possible we'll have some more coordinator movement as NFL teams shuffle the deck the day after the regular season is over.
You mean starting from Cliff Kingsbury being fired until you're on the air, we won't have more head coaching firings, right?
Yes. Okay, so you already had that news. Okay, yeah.
Yep,
Cliff Kingsbury has been fired by the Arizona Cardinals, so he is no longer there, and the Cardinals are once again pressing reset. I suppose the only other coaching story that we should probably keep an eye on is that, obviously Sean McVay's future is cast in some doubt, but it sounds like if he is going to make a decision to step away, he will probably do so after some thorough contemplation and not in a knee-jerk fashion like today.
Thorough contemplation, parentheses, negotiation could be what's going on. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Field Yates is our guest. I wanted to start off just in general. Now that we know the 14-3 record for the Chiefs, the number one seed for the Chiefs, the bye week coming up. As you look back over this year, was it improbable, or, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce maybe taking them a little too lightly over the offseason when it was, them retooling, maybe taking a step back this year, maybe a little bit of a rebuild for this team and this division? It's going to be really tough. Certainly they're not going to go 6-0 and all of those things, and 7 in a row for the division is certainly, it's up for grabs, and we'll see. It's certainly in danger of that streak being broken. What do you make of looking back now, this Chiefs season, that, they're in the position they are when this offseason felt like there were so many different ways the upcoming season could go?
Yeah, so here's what I would say is that as we look around the NFL, no question about it, talent is essential in the league, and quarterback play is obviously near the very top of that. And certainly having a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes reminds me of the quote that Joe Burrow used yesterday, which I'm sure you saw, in which he was asked about the Bengals' window to win. He said the window was my entire career. It's a reminder that that's the case for Joe Burrow, it's the case for Patrick Mahomes, it's the case for Josh Allen, and maybe a couple of other young quarterbacks. Although I think those three guys have sort of separated themselves is in a different tier of guys that are, let's call it, what's Patrick, 27 now? 27 years and younger. Maybe I'm off by a year or two in his age, and I apologize for that. But yes, I do believe that those guys have all kind of separated themselves. But beyond that is that no doubt high-priced players elsewhere do matter. But maximizing what you have available is essential. Coaching stability, doing things. Like, football is still a fundamental game, right? And the Chiefs still operate with extreme efficiency on offense. They have Patrick Mahomes. They're exceptionally well coached. They know how to handle themselves in big games. They don't blink when they fall behind. And as long as the kind of essential power players are there, and I'll refer to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid as the two above all others, then those two guys give them a chance every single season. I mean, they traded away a guy who ended up signing the richest contract ever by a wide receiver and had a remarkable season for the Dolphins in Tyreek Hill. And Patrick Mahomes set the single season yardage mark for a quarterback ever. So clearly they know what they're doing, and clearly they can replace even the very best of parts.
Yeah, he ends up the season with his highest completion percentage, his most yards in a season, second most touchdowns in a season, the second highest touchdown percentage of his career. He leads the league in yards and touchdowns this year. Yards per game, the second most of his season, but leads the league in that. QBR, the third highest of his career, leads the league in that this year. So he had an MVP season. Is he your MVP this year?
Yeah, he is. And, I want to say this now, Jason, and I don't think anybody who's listening right now is going to argue with my Patrick Mahomes pick. But I do feel like this year there are a couple of awards where there are going to be players with very deserving cases who get snubbed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't vote for the NFL MVP officially. Just the 50 members of the NFL's Associated Press do so. For the first time ever, they will have ranked choice voting. So this year you will see guys who cast Patrick Mahomes 1, and then they have Jalen Hurts 2, and Josh Allen or Joe Burrow 3, 4, et cetera. My feeling is that Patrick Mahomes, on the strength of a full 17-game season, edged out Jalen Hurts in the last 4 games. And while maybe if Jalen Hurts plays those 2 games that he missed and probably had a better performance yesterday to kind of cement Philly's regular season, he would take the edge. I think Patrick is the winner. I think both have extremely deserving cases, but just again, if you told people back in March that the Chiefs would not sign or not acquire a wide receiver that made I would say a landscape altering impact this offseason, because while Juju was really solid and while MVS had a couple of moments, Sky Moore not so much. It wasn't like there was a guy who dramatically altered the offense other than I would say Jerick McKinnon over the second half of the season hadn't previously played that role. So if you told me that, knowing that context, I'd say, well, if they go 14-3 and Mahomes throws for 5,300 whatever it was yards, he probably deserves the MVP. And I'll keep it simple in leaving it there and say he does deserve the MVP.
Field Yates is our guest from ESPN NFL Insider. What about the Coach of the Year? I saw a lot of talk last night that Nick Sirianni of the Eagles is going to be the guy, but I think this year is kind of a fascinating Coach of the Year discussion because there are a number of different guys that are deserving of that I can make a strong case for Doug Peterson and getting that team into the playoffs, and Shanahan playing with 3 different quarterbacks this year and finishing with that record, and Brian Daboll the playoffs, Pete Carroll in the playoffs, and they were supposed to get a top 5, a top 3 pick with their situation. Who do you go with if you're this is the Coach of the Year? Because there are plenty of guys that have an argument as to why Mike Tomlin and that team finishing with the record they end up with.
No question. You identified a lot of the key candidates. I would also throw names. I mean, there are a lot here, but Zach Taylor with the Bengals started, he was tremendous again. Andy was great as well, right? I mean, Andy did an excellent job this season. We can't normalize greatness, which is something we do too frequently in the world of sports. Again, I don't cast a vote. I don't have that privilege, but my vote would go for Brian Daboll. And we can count them as a 10-game season, a 16-game season, 9-6-1 in the 16 games in which they had competed.
Mm-hmm.
A quarterback in Daniel Jones, who prior to this year had more questions than answers. He had not thrown for more than, 3,050 yards in a single season and had a ridiculously refined year, a career high in both rushing yards, completion percentage. He was excellent in the turnover department, much better with the football. They got the most out of Saquon Barkley. They won games that they probably should not have won. And the thing about the Giants is that the story of the offense has dominated a lot of headlines this year because their top receivers down the stretch were literally Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins. I mean, these are waiver wire darlings. And I'm not talking about fantasy football waiver wire. I'm talking about guys that were acquired because other teams cut them earlier on in the year. But it's not like the defense they were playing with was the 2000 Baltimore Ravens either, right? Certainly some very capable players on that defense, but who's the household name? Who is the clear-cut Pro Bowl or All-Pro level player this season that people are going to recognize and say, all right, they don't have Patrick Mahomes, but they do have Micah Parsons. No, they don't, right? Dexter Lawrence is great, and Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be a really good player, and they've got some capable defensive backs. But they were signing guys who they had in different eras of their franchise, like Landon Collins, who's coming back and playing snaps for them. So I would give my fake vote for Brian Daboll, but I would note that you are right. This is a year which you can make the case for 6 or 7 guys, and fan bases are going to be mad no matter who wins, but my personal vote would be for Brian Daboll.
Field Yates is our guest from ESPN. I do want to talk about another coach, and he's taken a lot of criticism throughout his career, the 2 years Brandon Staley has, for fourth down decisions and aggressiveness and things like that. And I've defended him a number of times, and then questioned a number of times. He's been kind of a lightning rod of like advanced analytics and old school and things like that. But what do you make of the decision that playing the guys he did yesterday, and I guess if Mike Williams and Joey Bosa don't get injured, there's a different conversation, but they both did, and in a meaningless game. So what do you make of that and sort of the fallout now of not knowing what the future is of Mike Williams being able to play this weekend, or Joey Bosa, and what happened there, and really how long he stayed with Justin Herbert in that game?
Yeah, it was surprising, and I think the thing about Brandon Staley and all the fourth down aggressiveness and general aggressiveness, whether it's eschewing field goal attempts or whatever, I think that a lot of that, and I'm sure you have followed this logic, has been like, here is the reason why, and there's a pretty clear line of logic as to why you would do those things.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, interestingly, that a coach with that mindset, so it's not just analytics, but has like a formula-driven mindset, would probably be more likely to not play his starters than to play his starters. I would have thought of a more old-school coach. Honestly, I would think of the two coaches that I would think of when I think about them possibly playing, the starters in a late game would be Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, right? Those are the kind of two guys that might get their guys a quarter or two snaps, So it's an interesting decision, and there are some reverberations because of the potential health fallout. And obviously we hope those guys are healthy enough to play next week. But I was very surprised by it.
Yeah, especially a guy that does not play his players in the preseason at all. I mean, Herbert's never taken a snap in the preseason for Brandon Staley.
Right.
So it was odd. We'll see. They do go to the Jacksonville Jaguars this weekend, do the Chargers, and the playoff field is set. I do want to get your thoughts on the decision that was made last week in trying to figure out how to navigate without playing the game now moving forward, that the Chiefs do get the 1 seed, but if they play the Bills, it will be a neutral site for the AFC Championship game. Any other AFC Championship game matchup will be on that team's the higher seeded home site. What do you make of the decision to go to a neutral site, and are you hearing where it may be, since it looks like Indianapolis is out?
So I've heard a couple of different places. I don't know that I feel that confident with any of the information yet. So I will sort of refrain, but some of them I think I would say that people need to think more outside the box with these neutral site locations that they have been thinking so far. But that being said, I think that it's as fair of a compromise as the league could have come up with. And I said this to some of my colleagues on NFL Live on Friday, is we need to get rid of the word fair this week in the conventional sense, because it's not going to be fair. And what's less fair than having to play a neutral site football game in the AFC Championship is having to fight for your life because you showed up to work one day, which is what happened to DeMar Hamlin last week, right? I think, not that I want to bring up a nasty and obviously very tough night, but it put everything in perspective, in my opinion, right? That it's still just a game, right? And someone's health is more important than that, and that's the reason why we are adjusting to these consequences and to these circumstances. So my belief is that going to a neutral site in the AFC Championship game is as equitable of a response as the NFL could come up with, given the circumstances. So I think if it's Buffalo KC and they're playing not in Kansas City, I'm sure there are some Chiefs fans that are a little bit disappointed. The reality, though, is that if the Bills had won that game last Monday night, the game would be played not in neutral site location, but instead Buffalo, New York, which is a very difficult place to play. So while I'm sure not everybody is happy about it, there's never going to be 100% agreement on why or how or what is taking place. I do believe, given the circumstances, it was a reasonable compromise.
Visiting with Field Yates from ESPN, a couple of more. If there is a Bengals team this year, a Bengals team of last year that makes the run and wins the 3 games and goes to the Super Bowl and comes out of nowhere, it felt like. If there is that team this year, who would you pick it to be?
Cool, man. That's a good question. I think the answer, and I'm trying to identify some of the ingredients that I thought were essential to the Bengals making their run last year. First of all, it's a quarterback who has plenty of ability, hasn't yet had stage, a defense that has opportunistic playmakers, and then plenty of offensive skill players that can make plays. It feels to me like the Chargers are kind of the obvious contender to check all of those boxes. They've been a media darling for several years now, and they have not yet reached the status that I think a lot of us have been expecting them to reach. Maybe this is the year in which it all pivots, it all changes. Certainly the health considerations that we discussed earlier with Mike Williams and Kenneth Murray and Joey Bosa loom very large. But they were probably the team that, in a relative sense, we're not talking about enough right now, and could make a deep run. I do think the Cowboys are capable of doing the exact same thing in the NFC, by the way, because the Cowboys, I think the scariest team in the NFC is the 49ers, and the Cowboys would not have to play the 49ers most likely until I guess it's possible, but not until the second round, and potentially not until the NFC Championship game. So Dallas, on their worst day, can be very bad, but on their best day can be very good. And so I think all those reasons are why Dallas is reasonable, but I think the Chargers are kind of the Bengals version that you're asking about right now.
Yeah, I think those are the two that I identified too, with the Chargers being the number one. All right, Super Bowl. Who you got? Who over who in the Super Bowl as we start the playoffs now?
Yeah, man, I know that rematches are unlikely in the Super Bowl, especially just 4 years apart. But I wouldn't be surprised if I'm in Arizona watching the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers with the Chiefs coming out on top. It just wouldn't surprise me based off of the full body of work for both. It will not be easy. The Chiefs have the gift of having to only go through one of the Bills versus in the Bengals. The Bengals or Bills, if the entire way, are going to have to go through both. They're going to have to go through two of them, right? The Bengals are going to have to beat the Bills, and then the Bills are going to, you get what I'm saying. 2 out of 3. But the Chiefs have probably the path of least resistance. And the 49ers, just like a team defensively, that's just going to be borderline impossible to overwhelm in any given week.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening, though, getting things underway this weekend. Field Yates, ESPN. Field, great stuff. Appreciate the time. Looking forward to watching, and we'll see if there are any other coaches that are relieved of their duties today as you get ready for this show coming up later on this afternoon. And looking forward to our conversation next week, and we'll see what the matchup is going to be with the Chiefs and whoever they face off against. So thank you for the time, as always, Field. Looking forward to our conversation next week. Thank you so much.
And next Monday will be on the day of a huge playoff.
That's
game.
true.
I mean, as a company fan, I'm thrilled. I mean, fuck the Cowboys, even if the Bucs are not themselves, from a rating standpoint, we could not have asked for anything better.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll know who the Chiefs play that day, but then sitting back and watching Brady at home against the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, who have kind of fluttered down the stretch, and especially that game yesterday was left a lot to be desired. Field, you're the man. Really appreciate it, sir. Have some good shows today.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you then.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN. Got a couple shows coming up this afternoon, hosting some NFL specials. One of those about the coaching carousel, the coaches that have been fired. Lovie Smith fired by the Houston Texans. Cliff Kingsbury fired today. Steve Keim steps down as general manager as well. Each of them signed contract extensions through 2027. Earlier, I shouldn't say earlier this year because it's now 2023.
10 months ago.
But yes, within their contract would be roughly birthing a child around now, so a little bit earlier. So, got that 9-10 month area. So
equally painful for Cardinals fans too, I think.
I don't know that it is. I think they're fine moving on from Cliff Kingsbury.
I mean the era of what it's been, paying these guys through 2027. Yeah. They're basically paying child support, on this baby that they had 1 month ago. They now got child support through 2027.
How about this? Josh Brisco saying that Cardinals fans dealing with a coaching firing is the same pain as childbirth.
Arguably worse. Yep, you heard me. Yep.
Have you seen that contract?
A lot. I mean, look, it's a lot of money. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Wow. Waiting for your mom to weigh in here.
Yeah, no, I think I'm probably gonna lose this one, but I was just kind of making a joke for the radio show, and
sorry I went literal on you.
Yeah, no,
thanks,
that's okay.
Jason. I was just joking around.
No, I mean I walked into it, and that's I'm gonna have to, occasionally it's probably good for me to deal with the consequences of my actions. It doesn't happen all that often, and if this is the time it has to happen, I'll work on a written notes app apology for hopefully by the end of the show if this gets too bad.
I appreciate you doing that. 913-912-4810.
Why couldn't you have said it's like pulling teeth? That one would have been.
I mean, come on. I don't think any dentist would be offended out there.
God, now I've offended the dentists. Mothers and dentists?
9 out of 10 dentists disagree with you.
Oh, God, who's even left?
That one dentist is like, yeah, Josh is right. I mean, I've seen the contract, and I pulled some teeth, and usually you can numb that. Those Cardinals fans, I get it that they've been numbed from disappointment the last few years, but there is still a wrenching, pulling, twisting, stabbing sensation that's going on in them right now.
I'm currently getting a phone call from a number I do not have saved in my phone. I'm just going to assume this is a hit. Like, I gotta go. You guys might have to finish the show without me. I'm entering witness protection.
That makes sense. I went through and looked at the first round of the playoffs of the wild card in the last 5 years just to see what the home teams did, see if there's any pattern or anything like that. And then I wanted to look at the teams with the bye. So 17, 18, 19, there are 4 teams that got the bye. And then, last 2 years, just a couple of teams that ended up getting the bye. So we'll talk about that, what it means on the other side, if there's any trend to that. And if there is one particular team that may be susceptible based on recent history that wouldn't seem like it would be one of the more susceptible teams, we'll talk about that coming up next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. You're in the zone with Jason Anderson
To be honest, I didn't even know who Jason Anderson was.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll hang out with Mick Schaefer coming up at noon today. The Chiefs will hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Reid at 1 o'clock. Probably the only press conference this week from the Chiefs, as they will be enjoying a few days off. A little R&R, a little rest, recuperation, rest your mind, enjoy some time with the family, get that groin ready to go there, Frank Clark. McCole Hardman a little more time to rest up and get ready for the postseason, a little more healing for Sky Moore's hand, and maybe, just maybe, the Chiefs could go out there in the weekend of the 20th and 21st? Or would it be 21st and 22nd, that Saturday, Sunday in the divisional round, and actually have Kelsey, Juju, MVS, McCole, Tony, Sky, and Justin Watson all healthy? Maybe. Hello?
Sorry, I was
Somebody-
just knocking
Beard,
on.
you
I was just
Beard,
knocking
you wanna
on
get the
wood.
door?
Sorry, I was knocking.
Somebody's
On,
here.
apologies.
Who's here?
Apologies to anyone listening, like on their smart speaker at home, where their dogs can hear. If I sent them into a frenzy, I apologize. That's not a bad dog bark. Knock on wood. You can see. Wow, it's like Blue from Blue's Clues is here.
Isn't that the?
It's how. Where's the clue, Blue? We just got a letter.
We just figured out Blue's Clues. Maybe, hopefully, they will actually have a game that they play when all of those guys are healthy and on the field, and they can use them in different ways, and they're different little toys, and they can do like a merry-go-round of their wide receivers and not like a spinny ring around the rosy of play calls and things like that.
I wonder about Hardman's groin. Ha! Continuing the song.
Thank you.
It would be great.
Appreciate that.
It really does. Like, look, man, we mentioned his name once already, I think, but Kadarius Toney, the moments that he has had in this offense, he moves different. Patrick Mahomes has things to say about Kadarius Toney that makes me think that he may have forgotten about the number 10 that was briefly playing offense with him.
I do want to get into the playoffs thing. But
Very excited.
Since we mentioned that, I want to hear about Patrick Mahomes talking about Kadarius Toney and the impact he's had on this team. Here is Patrick Mahomes talking about Toney.
Yeah, even more than I think we thought. I mean, we knew he was talented, but for him to get accustomed to the offense this fast and be able to be out there for multiple plays now, and even if he's not getting the football, he's in the right spot, he's doing the right things, he's getting himself open. It just adds another dimension. He's a special type of talent that's different than any player that I think I've played with as far as the way he's able to move. And so he's getting better and better at running routes that we run in this offense. I think y'all saw that today. And now let's try to get 17 back, another speed guy, and I think this offense can even take it even another step.
I mean, I'd have to go back and look at every single time he's touched the ball, Kadarius Toney, that is. Has the first guy tackled him? Like, I don't remember when the first guy has tackled him, but again, that's just we remember the bigger plays and the more fun cutting back inside like they highlighted in the game on Saturday. Cut like that, the pass out on the snow globe or Arctic Circle where he did have to get around that first defender, and then they called a holding call because Humphrey was mean to the guy that he threw to the ground. But then the very next play, he gets into the end zone, which, by the way, if there was a holding call, what would they have done to get the ball to Kadarius Toney the next time? Because that was back-to-back plays. Like, number 19 will score on this drive.
I think direct snap was probably next. Maybe he just gets back there like he's going to hold the kick, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. The
I'll
direct
figure it
snap,
out.
that's what it was.
He was getting the football.
That was the next one. You had the throwback to Toney, then you had the end-around handoff, and if that didn't work, then you would just go direct snap to Kadarius Toney. They were going to get him a score on that possession, but also, like, when you're down in that area, I think just simply giving him the ball, there's a decent chance you're getting a score because he's so shifty. And again, when the first guy doesn't bring you down and you're inside the 10-yard line, how often in space are there two guys there that are able to tackle you? You break one tackle typically around the 10, 5-yard line, you're probably getting in. And that's the importance of being able to shed a tackler, to have somebody grab air. And Tony has done that. The speed of McCole Hardman, because McCole Hardman doesn't have the quickness or the acceleration, I should say, maybe
the jitteriness
of a Tony.
Yeah.
But Hardman's really good at sniffing the end zone. He's been pretty darn good at doing that. And it's not necessarily something I would look at and go, okay, his game's going to be around, trying to maneuver inside a phone booth and to find the crease and get into the end zone. But he's been very good at that. And now you throw Tony in there, which I would look at and say he could probably win flag football in a phone booth.
Yeah.
And that seems like the Chiefs well, if we get it to him twice, he's going to score.
Kadarius Toney is like a 99 overall playing just doing the Oklahoma drill. Like if he just has the ball, it could be a phone booth, it could be 6 inches of grass you got to cover, and it just feels like he's going to dance around you. Let me pitch it to you this way.
Pitch it to me.
How many guys on this offense have you been able to say this year when they're in a drought where you go, God, they just got to get the ball to X? I'd make an argument that Travis Kelce's not even really in that mindset, because it's just, if Travis Kelce's not getting the ball, you assume the defense is just like stabbing him with a spear every step of his route. Like, they got to call that eventually, but I don't know why they haven't yet. But with Kadarius Toney, and I think we won't really get there till next year, maybe we get there in the playoffs, but we're going to arrive at a point, and we may already be very close to the point, where if he doesn't have the ball for 10 minutes, you're going, boy, I would love for them to just find a touch for 19. Because when the ball is in his hands, different stuff starts happening. That could be true here or there for McCole Hardman. You're thrilled when the ball goes towards Juju because you think he's going to catch it, get a few more yards after the catch, a great piece of the offense. But Kadarius Toney is the player in this offense who I get withdrawals not seeing touch the ball enough. And he's been here for an hour and a half. I cannot tamp down my expectations on Toney anymore.
How many games have they had with two guys of those three on the field at the same time, playing a decent amount of snaps? Because Sky Moore, it's been such a slow burn for him to get up to speed. And then Hardman got injured, so then, more Sky Moore. And then, Toney is a part of the team. So then it was, Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. And then it was just Sky Moore. And this game, it was just Toney. In the divisional round, is there a chance that all three, that you got McCole, that you do different things to get him in space? You got Sky Moore, they do different things to get him in space. You got Kadarius Toney, they do different things to get him in space. And then, oh, by the way, you've got Kelce down the middle and doing what Travis Kelce does. And, oh, by the way, McKinnon out of the backfield is breaking records for a running back and catching the football and touchdowns. And, oh, by the way, they've been able to run the football, whether it's Ronald Jones or especially this year that we've seen from Pacheco and that big run late in the game to, put an exclamation point on it. It's like, we talked about, boy, if looking forward to when they get McCole Hardman and Kadarius Toney healthy. And it's like, well, they're already the number one offense.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. But would you add Justin Jefferson? Does that make them better? Yes. Okay, so you can always be better. You can be number one and then be number one with a bullet. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is number one in passing yards. By what? 400 yards. He's number one in touchdown passes this year by 5 touchdowns. He's number one in quarterback rating by 8 points. You can be number one and still be better and then give yourself more of a margin for error with your defense or, God forbid, your special teams, that if you have an offense that looks closer to what they did against the Raiders in the first half, where 4 of the 5 possessions they put points on the board, 3 of their first 4 possessions they put touchdowns on the board. I don't know. They're not losing until they get to the Super Bowl, and then maybe against the Eagles and the 49ers that I think can score right along with them, can go back and forth. The Bengals can certainly score, but what the Bengals have done, and Mick did a great job pointing this out last week on, I think it was Friday, but what the Bengals did against the Chiefs the couple times they've played is, especially this last time, was limit the possessions. The Bengals had longer ball-controlled possessions, and the Chiefs had the ball, 8 times? You turn it over a couple of times in your 8 possessions, you miss a field goal, you're toast in those games. 49ers and Eagles, those are teams that score fast. They get up and down the field, even with Brock Purdy. I mean, they're putting points on the board, so there's a lot of possessions, but there's a lot of points being scored too. So if you're going to want to win the Super Bowl, if you want to get past, Buffalo, that's got a better defense, you want to get past Cincinnati, that's got a better defense, and phenomenal second-half adjustments, okay, well, now do second-half adjustments if Hardman, Toney, Sky Moore are all healthy, the running game is working, and Kelsey is still Kelsey, and then you mentioned Juju, who's just a big-bodied guy who's like a more athletic tight end out there again. The offense becomes incredibly difficult to defend, and there isn't a defensive coordinator in the league that goes, oh, we're good. We got the Chiefs. Right. But I wonder if when Sky Moore was the motion man, if there was more of a, okay, we got Kelsey here. We know what MVS does.
Yep.
We're aware of what Juju does. Okay, Justin Watson, he's playing. He's out there. Sky Moore, he's fine. He's going to catch the ball and kind of jittery, and we need to worry about the running game. But Kelsey, now, yeah, it's scary because of what Tony looks like on the field. And it's so fun when he gets the ball in his hands. And he is the guy, even more than McCole Hardman, he is the guy that I would be more okay with returning punts than anybody since early Tyreek.
Mm-hmm.
And I am also the guy that no punt returner is the best punt returner. But I do think in a game against whether it's the Bengals or the Bills, when your offense scores 20 against Buffalo and 24 against the Bengals, that a special teams play could be the difference in changing things. So totally aware and acknowledging that fact, and I think that's what Tony does for this team as the main punt returner, the way that Tyreek used to be the main punt returner before he became the specialty guy of, we need a big play, so put him back there. And even that sort of felt like panic.
Yeah.
Like against the Houston Texans in the divisional round. Need a big play, put Tyreek back there. Okay, well then for a fact when that ball's in the air, he's going to want to return it. Mm-hmm. If it's a high punt that you want to call a fair catch, typically, let's fair catch this. If it's this high and this deep, whatever it is, this is a fair catch height on this punt. Or you're at the 5-yard line, you let it go. You put that guy back there, he ain't letting it go. Mm-hmm. He's catching the ball and running, so you're a little bit riskier there. And if the ball hangs up in the air a little bit, he's probably going to take more of a chance of catching it and moving almost at the same time. And we saw that happen against the Texans with Tyreek back there. Tony does so much for this team that I want to see 3 more games with him this year.
Me too.
I want to see 3 more games with McCole Hardman, and Sky Moore, because I don't think we're ever going to see that again.
Yeah.
McCole's going to be somewhere else. Tony and Sky Moore the next couple of years playing with each other. But those 3 guys that the Chiefs can find different ways to get them in space and get them the ball would be a whole lot of fun to see what that offense can look like.
It's very strange for it to be this, obviously true, but really there is a very good chance that the best form of this Chiefs offense is literally just not on the field together until the playoffs, until the divisional round of the playoffs. But they just become so much more multiple. Again, it kind of goes back to the idea of this offseason of give Patrick Mahomes dudes and see what he can kind of get out of them. To find people that can win their one-on-ones, when attention is being paid elsewhere, guys can leverage those opportunities for something. Tony is already one of those guys when he's on the field. Hardman can be. Yeah. But really, the entire group, eventually you're just stretching a defense too thin. And for the Chiefs to be able to do that with numbers as opposed to just 1 or 2 individual elite players, that's one thing. To be able to do it with numbers and then at least individually elite traits from Kadarius Toney, that's when I go from excited to straight up greedy.
Just stay healthy, man, because when he's out there, he is so much fun.
I don't need my hamstrings. I don't know if having a set of spare hamstrings would be helpful, but I don't need them that bad.
I've got one healthy calf muscle right now, so if he needs one of them, I will give him one.
Also, his tendons are all probably just made out of elastic or something, so we'd be a downgrade anyway. We just need to get him into carbonite or whatever. And
I can't imagine if he has one of my calf muscles, how odd it would look when he's running. Just look like he's got a hitch in his giddy up, like a spring. His left calf is his, and it's a spring, and then his right calf is mine, and then it's like a small little step.
He would be better off.
Why am I sitting here like my right leg is not working?
Yeah, like he just has a flat tire, basically. He would be better off just moving like a veggie tail, just hopping 1 foot at a time, just sprint hopping down the sideline.
You mean like he did to score his first touchdown?
Yes, he's already done it. You're right. That's it. We already know he doesn't need both legs.
Exactly.
He's the best. He might be one of the best pass catchers in football on one leg.
Which is why it made no sense that he was missing games with a hamstring strain. He's got another one.
Yeah, if it's a hamstrings strain, that's a different story. But give him one, and he might be this team's best wide receiver.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Hey, I want to get into that whole playoff thing with wild cards and bye weeks and things like that. We'll do that, I believe, next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. In the Zone.
Let's start with sports. Do you guys still have the 6 TV question?
We do have that one. That is Tua Tagovailoa had a big day on Sunday in the comeback win.
With Jason Anderson.
Tua Tagovailoa
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey, Mick Schaefer will join us at noon.
What?
Learn Funniest Best coming up in the noon hour as well. And then Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Reid will be at the podium in the 1 o'clock hour. All right, so let's look at the playoffs. I went through the last 5 years of the NFL playoffs just to see, like, the wild card weekend. What do we expect this weekend from these home teams, road teams, etc.? And then I also wanted to look at teams that had the bye, what they ended up doing in the postseason that year. So there are 6 games in the wild card weekend last year and the year before, and this year as well. So this is the third year with the 7 teams and 6 games and the 1 team getting the bye. So I went back 19, 18, 17, so 3 years of the 4 games in the wild card. 24 games have been played in the wild card weekend. What would you guess the home team's record is in those 24 games in the last 5 playoffs?
Beards, what do you think it'll be?
Beards, what do you think it is?
Like 20%?
20% winning percentage. That's interesting.
I'm going to say that home teams have won. What was the total number again?
24.
24. I'm going to say home teams have won 16 of them.
Okay, so 16 and 8?
A little more than half. Right,
12 and 12.
Woo, really?
12, exactly 500 in the last 5 years, home teams in the wild card round.
Interesting.
That's a 500 record with last year the home teams being 5-1.
Yeah, you're right.
They had a lot of work to do, the home teams did, heading into last year just to get to 500 in that time.
Sort of Mike Tomlin move.
That's there you
Claw
go.
back to 500.
That's exactly right. Before last year, the home teams were 7 and 11 in those 4 years. In 17, 18, 19, and 20, they were 7 and 11. Last year, 5-1. So then I wanted to look and say, okay, well, where are the upsets coming from? Where are the losses for the home team happening? I was surprised to see that of the 12 losses, they're all 12 come from 2 different matchups. So, which makes sense when you're talking about the wild card round, only 4 games.
Sure.
So there's 2 games that is just the 4 versus the 5 and the 6 versus the 3 when there were 2 buys. Now you can throw in the 2 versus a 7. So all 12 of the upsets come from the 4 versus the 5 and the 6 versus the 3. 7 of them are the 6 beating the 3. 7 of the 12 home teams in the last 5 years that have lost were the 3 seed. That was really surprising to me because I thought it would be a lot of 5 versus 4. 4 team, you're the best wild card,
worst division winner.
Worst division winner.
Make a lot of sense.
And home game may not really matter all that much.
Sure.
But the 6 facing the 3 is pretty interesting that's the case. So last year, the 6 and the 3, one of those teams was a loss. The 49ers beat the Cowboys. 49ers were the 6 seed, Cowboys were the 3. In 2020, both 6 seeds won. The Rams beat the Seahawks and the Browns beat the Steelers. 2019, both 6 seeds won.
Weird.
The Titans beat the Patriots and the Vikings beat the Saints. In 2018, both 6 seeds won. The Colts beat the Texans and the Eagles beat the Bears. 2017, the only upset of that weekend was Tennessee beating the Chiefs. Home teams went 3-1.
Don't remember that one.
Sorry, I don't remember that one either. Home teams were 3-1. And that took an absurdly, historically bad call and a quarterback catching a touchdown for that to happen, for that 5 to beat 4.
It's not that weird. Position players throw touchdowns to quarterbacks all the time.
But out of the last 4 years, 7 of the 8 6 seeds have won.
Yeah, and going through them there, I think you might have had like 2 divisional matchups. You could get kind of weird. Like you've seen a team 3 times.
Right.
But that's not explaining the vast majority of those.
Yeah, so you had Rams and Seahawks, Browns and Steelers.
I think there are 3 of them. I think Colts, Texans.
And then Colts, Texans.
Okay.
Yep, Colts, Texans are 3 of the 7. But 7 of the last 8 6 seeds have won that game.
I don't know, man. I don't have a good...
I don't know what that means, if it's just football.
I want to have a theory so bad.
Or is there something to that? I mean, I don't know. Does that mean that the Bengals are on upset alert this weekend with the Ravens and their backup quarterback?
If Lamar Jackson plays, then all of a sudden, yeah, absolutely they
So that's like going into individual games. It's like, did somebody get somebody back there?
Right.
Was there a crazy turnover in the game? Was there some crazy kickoff return? Was there a bad call that was ended up being called back or not called that would have changed the complexion of the game like we saw in 2017 with Chiefs and Titans? That's going through and studying each and every game. But that seems like a little too much to be just random. That 18, 19, and 20, all of the 6 seeds won, and then last year, one of the 6 seeds won. I don't know what that means. I mean, the Bengals lost Kappa yesterday. And that means the right side of their offensive line is not what it was a few weeks ago with Kappa and Lyle Collins. So somebody else going down. Does that mean that all of a sudden Burrow and that offense is susceptible to the Ravens? Well, they just played that team when Kappa went down and didn't have a week to prep without him in there. And, they look, the Ravens defense made some plays and got some sacks and got some stops, but offensively they just simply weren't good enough. If Lamar plays this weekend, I think there's a chance Chiefs and Ravens are playing. If it's not Lamar, I don't really give the Ravens much of a chance at all in that game. At all.
On the other side of the bracket, just to check in on the 3-6 thing, Vikings Giants feels pretty ripe for something. Actually, hold on. I was going to say it feels pretty ripe for something weird to happen. I'm just going to say it feels pretty ripe. That game might be pretty ripe. I was checking to see what the line was on DraftKings for that game in particular. Giants +3.
I mean, that's
on the road.
Right.
That right there is a very open for weird business line.
That's another interesting layer to this. Now I want to go back and see what the lines were on those games. Like, what was there like a 1-point spread, 1.5, 2? So that's kind of a coin
closer
flip.
than you'd expect for some reason.
Yeah, or was there really this was a 7-point favorite in that game? Because Bengals-Ravens is a 7-point game. So that's a 7-point spread. I've seen a couple of places. I think DraftKings
6.5 now on DraftKings.
Okay,
yeah.
So 6.5.
We just don't know who the quarterback's going to be yet.
How much would that change if they're like, Lamar's playing?
Legitimately, almost a touchdown. They're probably not getting favored, but man, it's fundamentally different. I wonder if that 6.5 is a little bit of hedging on maybe Lamar plays, because if he's ruled out, I bet it moves the other direction.
Mike Williams, X-rays negative on his back.
That's good.
Status
he
uncertain. It was blank. Like, where's your back, man?
This SportsCenter is brought to you by the University of St. Mary. New year, new degree. Start 2023 by finishing your bachelor's. Join the University of St. Mary for a virtual info session on January 19th. Visit stmary.edu/RSVP. The Chiefs handled their business on Saturday with a 31-13 win over the Raiders in Las Vegas, locking up the number 1 overall seed in the AFC and guaranteeing a first-round bye, meaning the Chiefs can watch the first round of the playoffs from the couch while waiting for their divisional round opponent. The Chiefs could see the Dolphins, Ravens, Chargers, or Jaguars next weekend when they'll play the lowest-seeded team remaining in the AFC after the wild card round. If the Chiefs and Bills both make it to the AFC Championship game, it will be played at a neutral site. Meanwhile, Houston Texans fired Lovie Smith after yesterday's win, and today the Arizona Cardinals have parted ways with head coach Cliff Kingsbury and GM Steve Keim. We'll talk about it with Nick Schaefer next in The Zone.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
When your kid graduates high school, and what a monumentous accomplishment.
That's right.
It's just...
Especially for your kid.
Did they find out new words and new dictionaries? Monumentous.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We will hear from the Chiefs coming up at 1 o'clock. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Reid. Hearing now from Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, joining us here in the Zone for the noon hour. Mick, how are you?
What's up, fellas?
Oh, not much. Not much. What's up with you?
It's weird kind of being here at noon.
Is it?
On a Monday.
A nooner.
Yeah, a nooner.
A little odd, a little early for you. Like, man, I got to get up a whole hour earlier.
New season, though, boys. Here we go. The postseason's here.
That's right. You know what?
4 weeks too late, but it's here.
It's the 4th season of the year for the NFL. Training camp.
Yeah. Preseason.
Then you ramp it up for preseason. Then regular season, it's another speed. And then now postseason.
And
play.
off-season's a season, too.
That's true.
Different
That's
speed
true.
again.
It's like combine season, then there's draft season. Then there's OTA season.
There's working out down in Texas.
There's season. Yeah.
Then there's training camp.
Holdout season.
Oh yeah, holdout season. That's a good one. That's always
Draft
fun.
season is going to be
colluding season,
and even more like draft season is going to be like tornado season.
It started
here.
already here. Yeah.
Well, for Josh, every day is fourth season.
That's true. IR, not on IR, does not matter.
No, it's
always fourth season.
Jody fourth season for you.
I saw this tweet yesterday. It now has 5 million views. It's just no piece of comedy is as funny as your friend accidentally saying a word a little bit wrong. And I just wanted to read that after the rejoin, this momentous occasion, whatever it was.
Yeah. Momentous and monumental, and just put them
monumentous.
together.
I think I called him Kiff Kingsbury in the Sports Center, and
Kiff Kingsbury. I think it was Kiff Kingsbury.
I was doing so well. I wrote way more script than I needed for the Sports Center. I had too much, I was fine until Kiff. And then that's what this is.
Cardinals fire Kiff Kingsbury and Steve Keim.
If he would have if his name was spelled the normal way, I think I would have read it perfectly. Cliff. Even like the bar would be fine. CLIF would have been easier. You had to get the alliteration.
If you say wrong words wrong enough, they'll become words. Do you know frustrated is actually in the dictionary?
As it should be.
He did it.
Can you say dictionary?
It's in the dictionary.
And you didn't mispronounce it. You just hit a speed bump partway through.
It's in the dictionary.
You sort of slurred it a little, yeah.
Yeah, you just, you know what? We just pressed slow motion on you.
I wouldn't.
You know, it's in the dictionary.
Okay, pause because my dictionary is the words. Encyclopedia doesn't, right?
Okay, yeah, thesaurus is a different one.
The Bible?
Yes, it is the Bible.
Was it in War and Peace? I can't remember. There was a word there, maybe?
I think the word frustrated might actually be in the message. That's a
It was one of
Herm
Edwards' favorite words.
Frustrated.
Still is, probably.
A little bit frustrated. Got to go out there and play. Not doing very well. A little frustrated.
Yep. Like, what is it? Lackadaisical.
Oh, yeah.
Give me a break.
That's when you're taking your time while lactating.
Travis Sham mockery. That's got to be in there.
What is it?
Travis Sham mockery.
I haven't heard that.
It's a travesty, a sham, and it's a mockery of everything.
It's my favorite member of Whose Line Is It Anyway? I can do this all day, baby. Keep giving me not onomatopoeia. That's different. Give me portmanteaus. Give me portmanteaus all day.
Is that what those are?
Yeah, when you combine two words into one word, it's portmanteau.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, it reminds me of when I met my Spodioti Dopalicious angel.
Oh my God!
I think that might be a onomatopoeia portmanteau reference to something I didn't get. That's 3 in 1.
Same name, before and after. All of it. Mick Schaefer's here with us right now.
Mick pointed at Jason there just for the listening audience to prove that Mick got it, and I'm just still kind of outside looking in.
Got it, guys. Got it.
Impressed.
Did it matter to you how the Chiefs played yesterday, other than just take care of business, get the 1 seed?
Because they didn't play yesterday, so that mattered.
Sorry, did it matter?
Welcome to an hour of all of us not letting anyone get away with anything. You will be perfect.
Comment, damn it.
You will be perfect. You will do it again. It is like whiplash.
Can we start this hour over? All right,
I'd love to.
3, 2.
The intro again? Can we get the intro.
Flawless
2
yesterday.
and 1.
Yes, it mattered on Saturday.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We got the Chiefs coming up an hour from now. Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41.
Mitch Schefter is here. Damn it! I'm sorry, Jason.
Restart.
One more. I'm sorry.
You know, I just want to get right into it. I don't want to waste any time when you're with us here, Mick, because that happens too often.
Feels weird being here at noon on a Monday.
Does it? No, I don't know.
I saw this tweet earlier. You're not going to believe it.
It's odd, but did it matter to you how they played on Saturday?
Absolutely, it did.
Okay. You feel better now?
Yes, a run of bad teams, and this was probably better than the run of bad teams they had before that, and they put them away. They stomped them. Now, look, it's the Raiders who weren't playing for anything, but neither were the Broncos.
Yeah. Or the Texans or so on and so forth.
And it turns out the Seahawks were, and they accomplished that, and that's another team in the playoffs that the Chiefs beat. 6-2, not bad. And by the way, everybody's kind of crapping on them for how bad the division was, but they played 8 of their 17 games were against playoff teams. That's the most by, I believe, 2 games of any other team in the AFC. Now, granted, the Bengals and the Bills both have one last game that they would have had in playing each other. I think the Bills
also
would have
been one more
3-2
loss for somebody.
Yeah, but I mean, just number of games.
Yeah,
Bills only played 5,
and the 2 losses by the Chiefs, total of 7 points.
Yes, and they were 2.
I think were 2 the Bills and Bengals.
Nick
but
Jacobs has all
points.
this on his Twitter feed. If you just kind of scroll through, there's probably been like 90 tweets since then.
Oh, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I love going to try to pull. I'll see a tweet from Nick. I'm like, I got to go back and get that tomorrow.
If Aaron Ladd or Nick Jacobs tell me to find a tweet, I'm like, I can't.
Mail it to me. Print it up.
Unless
put
you
up the
tweeted
stamp.
it 45 seconds ago. I'm not going to find it.
Can you screenshot that and
so
DM
I think
me?
The average score of the 6 wins for the Chiefs in those those games they played against playoff teams was like 32-22. And I believe the average score of the 2 losses was 24-22.
I don't need to look at the tweet now.
Unless I got it wrong.
Glad you told me that. Did you like the snow globe, the Arctic Circle, the reindeer, whatever, Ring Around the Rosie play on Saturday, not Sunday?
Nick Jacobs went viral with his tweet. He said, I'll forever call this Ring Around the Rosie, which I thought was like just obvious thing. A lot of people are probably calling it that.
I thought it was the same thing.
It got on like the Fox News page. It got on some other NFL site, and it's like 5,000 retweets later or something. Not retweets, likes. Retweets aren't cool anymore. It's all about likes.
Yeah, right, and impressions.
Yeah, impressions.
But he was wrong, though. It wasn't called Ring Around.
What was it called?
All right, 27.99 seconds. I got the Nick's tweet of in the 2 losses, KC was outscored on average 25.5-22. In the 6 wins, KC outscored their opponent on average 32.1-22.
He might still be in bed, so maybe that's how many tweets were above that.
I hit enter on going to his profile and then started the time and started scrolling and looking for numbers.
10-point winning margin, 3-point losing margin.
Yes,
in those 8 games. So that's
against the 2 and the 3 seed. Maybe obviously 2 of the best teams in football.
And I don't even know what the turnover differential would be in those games. They were -1 against the Bills and -1 against the Bengals. So those games they lost by 7. They had 2 turnovers. They also missed
I'm
field
sure
goal
they were
in each
pretty
game.
close to being negative in the 6 wins.
Yeah,
too.
they probably
were.
How they roll. They probably were. But those 2 games, they had a turnover and a missed field goal in both games against the Bills. At least one. They were -1 and a missed field goal. They had 2 turnovers against the Bills, both interceptions, both bookending the game. First drive interception from Mahomes in the end zone, last drive interception, and then the missed field goal by Harrison Butker.
I've always thought, okay, sure, in a lot of games, turnovers are the reasons why you lose, but a lot of times the worst team turns it over more, right? The better team turns it over less. It's like in college basketball. Oh, man, this great Kentucky, man, they never get called for fouls. Well, I mean, They're better, they're quicker, they're longer, they're taller, and so they're going to block shots more than foul on those occasions. They're going to get in front of a driving basketball player and take a charge as opposed to a guy who's maybe a step slower.
I don't get it. We've been called for 11 fouls, and they've been called for 3.
It's possible you just fouled more.
I mean,
even them up.
They're attacking the rim, and they drive every time, and we're shooting a bunch of threes.
Yes.
But we've only got 3 fouls, and they've got 11. This is ridiculous. Let me bomb a couple threes here while they're attacking the basket and throwing it inside and moving the ball and driving and things like that. But I just think it should be even because clearly this is one-sided in the foul calls.
It's an odd, pervasive mindset in college basketball where a lot of fans think that the foul calls should be evened up.
Well, it was an even game. The foul calls were even. Well, what about the non-calls? Well, the non-calls were even too. Obviously.
The amount of time they weren't blowing the whistle on both ends was the same.
Equal time. All right, it's equal opportunity. All right, it's one of the dumbest ways of assessing an officiating game.
But I think turnovers are very similar. It's like rushing yards. Man, the Chiefs are 20-0 when they rush it 25 times. Well, why don't you rush the ball the first 25 plays and boom, you did.
Oh wait,
we've radicalized Mick. This is incredible.
I get it.
There's something that comes before that. So
you're
like
saying
getting a lead.
Teams that are leading in the fourth quarter typically
a lot of times,
running the ball.
The better teams just turn the ball over less. The Chiefs are an exception to that rule.
Yeah. What is it? The number of teams never won the Super Bowl with -5 or worse turnover differential?
What are they at now?
-5 or worse, probably. I actually don't know.
Better these last couple of weeks of getting back to it. They were -5 a couple weeks ago. But regardless, it's a team.
-3 now.
Oh, see, there you go.
And
so
bottom third-ish of the league.
And I think that swath of playoff experience this year can tell us something. Okay, the Chiefs are good enough to overcome turning the ball over against bad teams, against middle-of-the-road teams. Against the Bengals and the Bills, they are not. Don't do that. In January, don't do it. Or is it February? Their first playoff games will be the 21st or the 22nd. It's wild.
Chiefs are +2 in their last 4 games. How about that?
So they're like -3 now? Or
and 2 of those games, they haven't turned the ball over at all. So they are -3 in the turnover differential. So it's better. It's been getting better. The one game where they had 2 turnovers against the Texans and 2 turnovers against the Broncos. But yeah, so they've been much better as of late in turning the ball over. Or
and that's good.
Not.
And look, this isn't the first time they've not limped through December, but haven't looked their very best in December, and then got to the playoffs, and you see a brand new team. Because we've talked about it before, I think, and continue with the sports analogies here.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you're Andy Reid and you're the Chiefs and you've been there before and you're this good, you're like a good NBA team. You're just kind of going through the motions a little bit the first 3 quarters of the game. Fourth quarter, okay, where are we at? All right, let's go get it. And we're in the fourth quarter of their season because their season always includes the postseason. And so I expect them to go get it. Who do you think they're going to play?
I think it's the Jags. Chargers. You think the Jags are going to win?
I do. They won by a lot last time. That was at LA too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. The Chiefs are 10-1 in the last 11 games. 5 of those games are against playoff teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're 10-1. We talk a lot about them not playing well or winning by a wide enough margin, but then sit back, 14-3, number 1 seed, and the last 11 games, all they've gone is 10-1 in those 11 games. And the one game they lost, they had a 4-point lead and driving if it wasn't for the second best player on offense
against the defending AFC champs.
That's right. Yeah, against and if they play him again, it'll be at Arrowhead.
And honestly, it's weird saying this. Do you have a shower? I might need to go shower after I say this. I think Doug Peterson coaches football better than Brandon Staley.
No, I don't know about that. Come on. You think the coaching advantage this weekend is going to be on the Jags sideline?
Dude, he's done a great job this year, man.
What I think would be interesting if Brandon Staley starts resting some of his players this weekend against the Jags.
He's due for that. It makes sense.
I just thought we don't want to get him injured.
I mean, at least win the game if you're going to do that.
Right? That was so weird. We got to leave him in there. It matters. But late in the game, I don't want to call timeouts to see if we can win the game against this team. It's just so. This is a guy who doesn't play his starters in the preseason.
You're not getting a bye. I get it to where okay, maybe I want to get these guys some reps because it's going to be be 2 weeks between games. No, you're playing right away. Give these guys rest.
He doesn't play his starters in the preseason. He's a believer in not playing his players in the preseason. No.
Herbert doesn't play in the preseason.
No, Herbert has never taken a snap in the preseason under Brandon Staley in the 2 years.
Wild.
And him to say, well, when you get a week off or whatever, you kind of get rusty. What's he going to do if they ever get the bye? If the Chargers under Brandon Staley get the 1 seed, I mentioned it, was he going to have a scrimmage against the team that lost in the college football playoff the week before?
Go get one of the XFL squads, just kind of getting together right now.
XFL squad, a scrimmage, just to stay crisp and clean.
Yeah. I just want Justin Herbert to get hit in the ribs really hard, like one time, and then he'll be ready for next week. What?
Well, and to be fair, I mean, Joey Bosa's probably going to get injured in street clothes too.
Great
right?
point.
Good of a chance on the sidelines as in between the lines. But Mike Williams, I think back spasms. Hopefully, I don't want anybody hurt, but I do not want to play Mike Williams. So how can I phrase this? Hopefully,
X-rays
back spasms
negative, status uncertain.
Hopefully, he becomes really healthy on January 16th.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Just
I think you did it. I am really rooting for Mike Williams' health on
January 16th.
Next Monday. I hope he is tossing his
they
child
won.
in the air. I don't know if he's a father. I'm just kind of picking things.
Unless they win in Jacksonville, then I would rather him be
really
that's
what I
on
meant.
the 23rd.
Yeah, that I didn't
just
mean
to be safe, be healthy on the 23rd.
Yeah.
Really healthy.
I
on
hope the
23rd.
month of February is the best month of his
Absolutely.
life. On and off the field, I hope he gets great success.
During free agency season or trading season, he moves to another division.
That would be perfectly
or
fine.
Different conference.
Or maybe stays in the division, moves a little closer to where we're currently broadcasting from.
Sure. Kansas City.
Why would he live here but play for the Chargers? That doesn't make any sense.
It would be a long commute.
We'll explain it to him
to get away from Brandon Staley for a little bit. He's hiding from Brandon Staley. He's moving to Kansas
Rivers
City.
had that van.
That's right. The Chargers have precedent for this.
He commuted San Diego to L.A. every day in that van. He commuted and didn't have to drive. What a life. What a nice life for them. Is there a
so much time away from his kids? Think about all the peace and quiet he must have had.
It was a great day for Missouri football, by the way. Yesterday, you had Chase Daniel throwing the touchdown pass. Tyler Beatty was activated, and then you had Nick Bolton with 16 tackles, becoming the all-time leading single-season tackler.
Gabbert got playing time because
did he?
Tom
Yes,
Brady
he
said.
did.
Nice.
He sure did.
It's a big day yesterday. Yeah, it was awesome to see Tyler Beatty do that to get the touchdown reception in that game.
Running backs catching touchdowns are so hot right now.
They're so
hot right now.
You're so hot.
Jarek McKinnon Hansel because he's
Hansel's
so hot right now.
hot right now. The matchup this weekend is
Zoolander.
Zoolander.
By the way, the matchup this weekend is Zoolander and Hansel with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert.
Yeah,
with the hair.
Yes.
One of them's Blue Steel, the other's Magnum. I can't
Zoolander
throw left.
had Magnum and Blue Steel.
That's true. What did Hansel have?
I don't think they ever said his looks. He just kind of free spirit.
Was Magnum the original one, and then he got Blue Steel later on for Zoolander? Was it Blue Steel and then
Magnum
he
was
developed
great. He was working on Blue Steel.
That's right, Blue Steel was
and
what
he
was
finally
working on.
broke it out, and he stopped the Chinese star from hitting the prime minister in the face. Right?
Yes.
It is a great plot, Josh.
I invented the piano necktie. I invented it.
Beers, the hair matchup this weekend is going to be like Aragorn and Legolas. I mean, the flowing locks from those two head to head, really just, and they're all on a quest for a ring. I mean, I couldn't think of any other examples.
They're all the same look. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
So yes, it'll be Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. Figuring out who the best-looking model is going to. Do they actually come out on a runway? Do they introduce them on a runway?
And which one's going to pull their underwear out directly from their pants?
Brandon Staley is actually going to come do that for Justin Herbert, much to his own chagrin.
Billy Zane is going to be calling the game.
That's right. Do you have a preference on, or an order of preference on teams you'd like to see the Chiefs play?
Yes, absolutely.
Number one being.
Well, so for that, Ravens.
Ravens number one?
Yeah. That's a possibility, obviously.
Makes sense.
Right?
Is that just because they would also have beaten the Bengals? So like two birds, one stone?
I feel like,
no pun intended with the Ravens?
I feel like quarterback health as a concern for their first and second stringer is the reason why, which would obviously be the same for the Dolphins.
Yes, you got a team with its third string quarterback is an appealing matchup.
But it's almost like, I take the chance of like Tyreek coming back in here and getting a win.
Well, if Tua's healthy, I mean, I don't know that Tua's going to play the rest of the year. Mike Williams said they're taking it day by day, even into the offseason.
You got Skylar Thompson coming back, motivated in his hometown.
But if they play Miami, there's a chance that Tua's out there. If they play Baltimore, there's a chance that Lamar's out there. And although if they're not out there this weekend, I don't think either team wins.
Okay, if I'm going both levels, then and it would have to be this way. I would go Miami, then Baltimore. Yes,
Miami, then Baltimore. That makes sense. Miami number one choice because then the Chiefs are going to be
Baltimore
playing.
Then Miami. It's got to be Miami first because they're the lowest seed.
And also, it would mean that the Chiefs, if they win that game, would host the AFC Championship game because they would have beaten Buffalo.
I just think it's hypocritical for you to be afraid of the Tyreek Hill revenge game and not afraid of the Sammy Watkins revenge game if it is, in fact, Baltimore. True. That one, I mean, I just don't want you to overlook him.
It's almost like I watched the games when those two were in Kansas City.
Have you watched the games with Sammy Watkins since he's left Kansas City? Also not been great.
What about DeMarcus Robinson revenge game?
Wow.
I think DeMarcus Robinson got revenge on whatever quarterback was throwing him the ball because he clearly was not a fan of his. Who was it? The third string quarterback
when Huntley was
Huntley was out.
It was
pre Anthony Brown.
Anthony Brown.
Oh, okay. Anthony Brown is one of those.
Anthony Brown throwing the ball and hitting DeMarcus Robinson in the chest, and it bounces up behind DeMarcus Robinson, and it's intercepted by the Bengals. Like, hey, DeMarcus, catch the ball, and then on a 3rd and 3, throws a slant to DeMarcus Robinson, bounces right off his chest, and he drops it, punting. Sammy Watkins, the long play down the field. And is weaving, and then as he's falling to the ground, again, the Bengals reach in and rip the ball out while the guy's falling to the ground. The Chiefs receivers really did in the Ravens yesterday.
The Ravens depth chart, it only has 2 starting receiver slots because it lists them with 2 starting tight ends. You're on a lot of heavy and everything. So they're 2 top of the depth chart pieces right now at wide receiver are just Sammy Watkins and DeMarcus Robinson, backed up by James Prochet and Tylan Wallace.
Oklahoma Stater, by the way.
It's every offseason there's a conversation about, like, what are the Ravens going to do in the pass catching department? And every year I get to January and I go, oh, like next year it's just going to be like Justin Watson and McCole Hardman.
And they get receivers that have the same sort of makeup as like their defensive players. So there's like these big bruisers. Like Tylan Wallace is a brute, man. He is tough. He is physical. Might be a 4.8 40, okay, but
could be good in the running game. He can be helpful
than
there.
That, but that's what he's known for. That's kind of like what Sammy Watkins is, right? The guy that's gonna.
You get the Chargers and the Ravens, and every year it's like, well, who's healthy for them entering the postseason? Who do they even have on this team?
I would do Ravens.
Ravens
Jaguars. I do Ravens Jaguars if I had to pick the next 2.
Ravens mainly because Chargers aren't in the postseason, but typically it's like, who's even healthy for this team when they get there at the end of the season? If the Chiefs could avoid and only having to face one of the Chargers, Bengals, Bills, I think that would be best case scenario, no matter where they play that championship game.
The teams I want to avoid ranked of those 3, it's Bengals, Bills, ... third Chargers.
I agree with that, but they do have 2 wins against the Chargers by a total of 6 points.
Yeah. I agree. Yes,
but I'm with you.
They also have 2 losses.
They have 0 wins against the other 2 teams.
I agree. So I'm with you, but I don't think it's I don't necessarily.
I would
feel
much
like
rather
it's
play the Jags than the Chargers.
Agreed.
To your point. Yeah.
Agreed. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Learn funniest best on the other side. What happened from the weekend. We'll also, before we're done with Mick Schaefer, look ahead to the College Football National Championship game tonight. TCU and Georgia. If the Horned Frogs can pull off the final touches of this Cinderella ride for them this year. We'll take a timeout.
Get within 12.5. I'll be fine.
Now 12. I mean, should have got it at 13.5 if you were going to ride the points. More Zone coming up next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I had a buddy that said stuff wrong all the time, and it was like a daily thing.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Schaefer. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up at 1 o'clock. Just remembered we're doing Learn Funniest Best right now.
Oh, yeah.
We were doing so much conversing, or conversating, as some would say, in the break there. And my learned is that we have Learn Funniest Best. And I did not send the audio to Beards for my funniest. So
sorry about
that's too bad.
My funniest now. Ha ha.
The funniest is that I didn't. Maybe somebody else will have the funniest. Anybody got Jamal Williams?
Sure do, Jason.
Okay, very
sure.
good.
In fact, you know what?
Changing emotions on a dime?
I can
amazing.
Jason, I can split it up with you because I brought a Jamal Williams double feature today.
Great.
How about that?
My funniest is also whatever Briscoe's funniest is going to be because that's what I wrote down, but I forgot to send him the sound. But if we have the audio,
now you got
great.
it.
And I would have been the last to go on funniest anyway.
So this is gonna work out perfect.
Yep.
Beard, you follow all that?
Yeah, I'm good.
So what I learned, boy, I learned a lot. And it's an odd weekend that I learned a lot. There's a couple ways to go on this. I think I'm going to go this way. What I learned is that even with an emotional week, that sometimes you can get caught up in the moment and not realize what you're doing with your mind not really firing immediately of, oh, if I do this, it's going to look really, really bad from what happened this last week. And I learned that with even a team that experienced it. The Bengals picked off Anthony Brown. And they were tackled on the return, but they all ran to the end zone, right? Doing the full defensive celebration. And they did some celebration where the whole team was laying and like doing push-ups. But then two Bengals players went over to Hilton and started pumping his chest to wake him up.
Yeah, it's not.
And I think they did it like twice, and then they immediately stopped.
Realized somebody went like, hey.
Tyreek's done that before with the Chiefs, and
Like
I've seen others do it as well. Yeah.
Right, and went, oh, wait, and they stopped, and they immediately all just got up and ran off the field. It was like, yep, let's just move on.
Yep.
Let's move on. And I thought, even that, you get so caught up in the moment of like this celebration. It's what we do, and then just, oh my God,
what am I doing?
Yep, my bad, my bad.
Good for them for realizing
that. But you get lost in the moment. You get lost in we've seen that celebration so often, and we talked about it last week, and we're like, well, I bet that's the end of the celebration in the end zone. No, it wasn't. It happened a few days later with one of the teams that was in the game. So, yeah, that's what I learned, that even in that, you sort of can get lost in the moment of excitement and just not realize something you do would look that bad. I'm like, oh, wait. But they did realize it about 2 seconds late in that particular game.
At least they didn't stick with it. That's for the best.
That is true. That is true.
Speaking of getting lost in the emotions of an NFL weekend, I learned that I can fully enjoy a largely meaningless football weekend featuring quarterbacking snaps from the likes of Jarrett Stidham, Chad Henne, Joe Flacco, Skylar Thompson, Desmond Ridder, Sam Darnold, Blaine Gabbert, Kyle Trask, Nick Mullins, Nathan Peterman, Tim Boyle, Anthony Brown, Davis Mills, Jeff Driscoll, Sam Ehlinger, David Blau, Brock Purdy, Sam Howell, and Davis Webb. I thought about adding in a fake one to see if you guys would even catch it, and I didn't because Tim Boyle sounded fake enough to me.
I thought, when you said Tim Boyle, I thought you were talking about Blau, and you just said it wrong.
David Blau, Tim Boyle, Davis Webb, all guys who could walk into this room right now, and I would stare at and say, excuse me, can I help you?
Can you name either college that Tim Boyle played at?
Tim Boyle?
No.
Why didn't you ask me Blau? I would have told you Purdue.
That's what I was going to say.
I thought you were going to ask. I was hoping you were going to ask about
Did he play at
Davis Webb.
Minnesota?
So no,
Boy,
he was
it feels
on
right,
Hard
though.
Knocks. No, not football schools, either one of them.
Oh, wow. Not
Duke
a football school. So did he play at Kentucky?
North Carolina. Oh, that's mean-spirited.
In that state.
No kidding. Did he play at Murray?
Western Kentucky? Little WKU up on the helmet?
Direction.
Eastern Kentucky.
Eastern, whoever said
Wow,
it.
that was my point. Got a fresh guess.
UConn.
EKU
Wow.
and UConn.
You keep mentioning UConn on this show. Can't get away from him.
Isn't EKU where Matty Mock went when he got kicked out of Mizzou? I think he ended up at EKU there. But EKU and UConn.
Are they the
for Tim Boyle.
Hilltoppers? How many of those Kentucky schools are
WKU,
Hilltoppers?
get it
Western
right.
Kentucky.
Hey,
Give me a break. Come on,
Do you
Josh.
understand?
Sorry to disrespect.
You can miss movies all the time. Do not miss mascots.
Next time you see my wife, she might slap you for asking which one is the Hilltoppers. It's Western Kentucky, WKU. Get it right, sir.
Eastern Kentucky is the Colonels.
The Colonels.
You
yeah.
can't.
Murray State's the Racers.
How is their mascot not just a chicken leg? You can't be the Eastern Kentucky Colonels. It's too on the nose.
The Colonel is Mr. Sanders here. What you talking about? He did.
Tim Boyle brought the perfect blend of herbs and spices to the Eastern Kentucky Colonels today. What?
I'm looking for the Colonel. What you talking about? I say he did. What'd you learn there,
Tim Boyle
Mick?
could use a famous bowl. What are we doing?
Well, I could do your exact speech on with the events of this past week. You would think this player wouldn't do that with Quay Walker.
Certainly could.
Oh my goodness!
Right?
That
Who
too.
didn't learn his lesson mid push?
No.
But Quay,
And what about who was 95 or 96 that came up and then bodied?
Yeah,
bodied the trainer.
somebody had to
you messing with my guy?
get in there, but like you got to stand up for your teammate. This looks like there's about to be a fight with a trainer.
That was almost worse.
I agreed.
In that, okay, the trainer put his hand up, but he's just trying to get him to the side, right?
Something that happens all the time.
Maybe he can say, "Oh, I thought it was somebody else. I turned and pushed," but he obviously saw him. But then the other guy to come up to back up his fellow linebacker or safety or whatever position, and he bodies up the trainer.
not only that, but Quay Walker's the guy who nationally televised got kicked out like a month ago for a sideline altercation with the other team's assistant coach, where he went and pushed an assistant coach. It's now twice he has put hands on somebody in street clothes and has been kicked out of a nationally televised game.
Well, and then there's Rasul Douglas, who made a great play, I thought, when he was the one that blocked the snap after the whistle. So the field goal kicker couldn't. It's almost like the whistle blows in basketball. You shoot the shot, you block
jump
it.
up and
you don't want to
knock it
give
out of
him
the
feel
rim.
for it.
Yeah.
And then he turns and just shoves a guy in the face mask and gets a 15-yard penalty. Yeah, what's going on with that Packers defense? Anyway, I learned I was at a trivia night at a local high school, and it was a lot of fun. And I brought my dad. My wife wasn't able to go, so my dad sat at our table. And afterward, the host, the guy that bought the table, was like, "It's going to be awkward next year when I invite your dad and not your wife again," because he knocked it out of the party. He got so many questions right. But I learned what BTUs stand for. They stand for British Thermal Units, like BTU, like in heating.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't know. My dad did.
Is there an ATU, like American Thermal Units?
There should be.
Yeah. Is there an
So I did.
FTU?
I actually learned that, and a lot of other things.
Is there an STU, a French Thermal Unit, or surrender?
I'm trying to get a metric joke in here somewhere, and I haven't been able to. How's your wife taking the news?
She's just totally fine with it.
Okay.
She knows.
Doesn't want to be there anyway.
She knows her role in the trivia hierarchy of the family. Yes.
Where does she rank on the
She would
trivia?
just want to go to drink, basically. Yeah.
But she would be able to help you on the questions about alcohol.
Absolutely.
Yes. What'd you learn, Beards?
Since 2017, Aaron Rodgers has the same number of postseason wins as Blake Bortles.
Love it. Wow. 17. Is it 1?
I think it's 1.
I think Bortles. I mean, if you're going back to when
That one
Bortles was
year.
winning games, they were in the
They won
AFC
2,
Championship
right?
game,
Or
right?
They just win 1 that year.
They won one
to get to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, because they were they had a
2 seed.
bye.
Yeah.
What was your funniest, Brisco?
I'm going to go to Jamal Williams here. I'll save the back half of the double
okay.
feature. But this is actually going to be my introduction for this week, in case anyone missed this one. This was after last week's game. Jamal Williams had my favorite locker room press conference sort of conversation of any player in NFL history.
That been talked about?
I don't watch TV.
You don't watch TV? You didn't hear about it?
I'm trying not to cuss. I don't care. I just want to play football and go home. But you're holding me right now. I just want to go home and play Pokemon.
Go home and play Pokemon?
Yeah, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You can't disrespect Pokemon like that. Pokemon. You sound like
I got
old.
my nephew some Pokemon cards. They're kind of a big deal.
I don't know what cards you got on. They must have sucked because you calling them Pokemon. But it's fine. Never mind. I'm off topic. Come on. My bad. I'm sorry.
I'm thinking about getting, I just want to go home and play Pokemon, like, tattooed on my neck. I just want people to be able to see that immediately upon starting a conversation with me. I love Jamal Williams for reasons that will continue through Jason.
Oh, you're going to go play Pokemon?
The other thing I love about it is that he did not let that reporter get away with it. He was, oh, you sound old. And he was like, oh, yeah, I bought some cards for my nephew. They must be a big deal. And his response is just, you sounding old.
I already told you sounded old. Why are you doubling down?
You're making this worse for yourself.
Shut up. Just move on. Mick, what was the funniest for you?
Funniest for me is they ran down some of the top donors for Damar Hamlin's charity over the weekend, and you have guys like Tom Brady putting in $10,000. Good for him, but you had a lot of people putting in like $5,333, right, or $5,003. The higher donors from companies, from rich Bills fans, whatever. Then Rob Gronkowski, his donation was $6,900. Never change. Rob Gronkowski, $6,900.
Wow, what a commitment to the bit.
Way to be awesome in a couple different ways there, Rob.
That's so good.
He is a treasure.
He's a national treasure.
He is a treasure. What was the funniest for you, Beards?
This is a tweet that resurfaced to say this was about 3 games into the season. It was from Greg Gabriel, who's a former NFL scout of about 30 years. He tweeted, "The experts say that the Bears would only win 3 games all year. They won 2 of their first 3. Do these same experts feel the Bears would go 1-14 the rest of the way?" Arrested Development narrator voice. They did. They did. So that popped up again today.
That is awesome. My funniest, if anybody didn't know about this, but Jamal Williams.
Oh, I love that guy.
After the game was over, in the locker room about Pokemon. Or man.
Oh, no, sorry, this is a different clip.
Oh, sorry. So after the game was over, Jamal Williams, breaking Barry Sanders' record, was being interviewed on the field. And the emotions that he switches from is, it's Costner-esque. I mean, it is Tom Hanks of his generation. He's a songbird. This is the post-game interview, Jamal Williams, who's very emotional while also wants people to know, don't mess with him.
I'm grateful to be able to play this game for my great-grandfather, and I'm glad that he's looking down on me, and I know I'm making him proud.
You said this ball's for him?
Yeah, this is for him. Another thing, stop playing us, man. We the Detroit Lions. We the Detroit Lions. Stop playing with us. I don't even watch TV, but I heard everybody already picked the Packers over us. Stop playing with us. That's all I gotta say, man. Don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
I couldn't
Don't
believe
let
it.
these tears
On
fool
a
you.
dime.
It's all dog around this mug.
And before that, he went on for 30 seconds to a minute about his great-grandfather, how much he meant to him, and it was tears the whole time.
He's incredible.
But don't get it twisted.
After the
don't
Pokemon,
play us. I don't even watch TV.
After the Pokemon interview, which I'll refer to it, I went through and the Lions had like a whole playlist. I think it was just TikToks they had done featuring Jamal Williams.
Yeah,
he's like that all the time. It's just it's always he introduces himself with Naruto references, and he's a big anime dork, and it just makes me very happy that he exists in this world.
Mick, your best?
My best is the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell coaching at the end of the game last night. So many Lions stuff. By the way, one of my good buddies at Channel 41, Darius Smith, he's from Detroit. He's the biggest Detroit fan of all time. He bet me this year. We bet lunch. I gave him 7. I think I said 6.5. If the Lions get 7 wins, I'll take you lunch. I'm like, well, he's going to buy me lunch because he's going to be under, especially those first 8 weeks or whatever.
Fine.
So I'm glad they. I wish they would have made the playoffs, but at least winning record 9-8. But at the end, not only do you have them not taking the penalty
awesome.
to create one more play,
Great move.
Then is a great call on your part when you tweeted that the Packers did take the penalty. They took the yardage back, but it's one more play.
Yeah.
And on that play, I saw the first ever hook and lateral at the line of scrimmage. We're saying it a hook. I guess it's a bubble screen and lateral. Yeah, bubble and lateral. They're at the line of scrimmage, and then for them to go for it on fourth down and get it. Hey, coaches, they got it pretty easily. They got it like wide open there. And so that was a lot of fun. I'm sure he coached differently because they knew it didn't matter at that point, and I'm pulling out all the stops to win at Lambeau Field. Guess what? It worked out.
You could have the ball 3rd and 5 with 2:12 left and no timeouts, or 2nd and 17 with 2:12 and no timeouts. Yeah, you take the 3rd and 5 and you say, let's get a stop so we get the ball at just after the 2-minute warning, hopefully you're only down 7. Or hopefully you're down 4 and they miss the field goal. Or they go for it and you get a stop. But
and you just had a tutorial on that a couple plays before that.
Yes.
The series of downs before that when he didn't take the penalty.
Right. They jumped off sides on purpose, which was a really smart thing to do by the Packers. But then the Lions were like, nope.
Nope, sorry.
No, we're going to get the extra play. Beards, what was your best?
My best is this stat that I saw that is too crazy to be true, but it is. Mac Jones is now 0-4 against the Bills when he throws more than 3 passes.
Is he 1-0 when he throws less than?
He's 1-0. He is 1-0 when he
3 or fewer passes.
3 or fewer passes.
Wait, he's played the Bills 5 times?
Wow.
He's not been in the league 2 years, right?
They play a playoff game last year or something? I don't know. That part I can't fact check. I can't remember.
I don't remember. I wrote down all the playoff teams, but I don't.
Would have been like the wild card round, right?
They played Patriots Bills 2 years ago? 2 years ago, maybe? Mac Jones' rookie year? I don't remember.
2 years. He's been in the league 3 years now?
Is this third year for Mac Jones or second year?
No, this is year 2.
Second year.
So it would be both regular season games, and they must have met in the playoffs, or Beards' stat is wrong, and that's not how that works.
No, it's not. His stat is not wrong.
Beards doesn't get stats wrong.
My best from the weekend is Mark Davis and Josh.
They lost to the Bills last year. I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there.
In the playoffs?
In the wild card round, yep.
Yeah, in the wild card
47-17 is why I don't remember it that well.
Yeah, why would you? Chiefs were taking care of the Steelers, or going to, whatever time of day that was. Mark Davis and Josh McDaniels, this could be funniest, it could be learned, but it's my best of how thin their skin is. That on the broadcast, they showed a Raiders fan with a sign that said, "We deserve better." He also had a sign that said, "Bench Josh McDaniels." He did not have that sign in the fourth quarter, nor is he there because they kicked him out of the game.
Wow.
For having those signs.
Really?
So it's kind of my best in that a Raiders fan got kicked out just for having a sign.
For having expectations, no less.
Which is great. So showing you Mark Davis and Josh McDaniels, good luck. My other best was I kind of felt bad for Jameson Williams. He went up and asked Aaron Rodgers for his jersey. And Aaron Rodgers said, "No, I'm going to hold on to this one for a while."
He had no idea who that was.
I'm going to hold on to this one for a while.
Jameson didn't, or Aaron didn't?
Aaron had no
Aaron
idea.
didn't know who he was.
He's not trading.
He shouldn't get that jersey.
He's not trading his jersey with anybody that doesn't have less than 5 Pro Bowls.
But also
could be his last game.
But also to say I'm holding on to this one for a while, meaning I'm not trading jerseys on my last Packers game ever. I'm holding this jersey here. What was your best, Josh?
It's an easy layup, but seeing Damar Hamlin tweeting during the games, the picture of him in his hospital bed with people around him all in the shirts and everything, just the absolutely bizarre everything surrounding the opening kick return for the Bills, and then again just seeing Damar Hamlin's face while games were being played for the first and second time since he went down was incredible.
Yeah, that was going to be my, if we didn't have that individually, it was going to be the show.
Yeah,
the show's best
it's
from
a
the weekend
universal best.
Was the opening kickoff emotions and Hamlin.
Some
and
of the best
stuff,
scripting the NFL's ever done.
Yeah, really it was. Some of the best writing ever.
I don't believe it. I think they went a little too Disney there.
The second one was a little on the nose,
right,
but sometimes you have a hit, you want to, try to get that curtain call.
Yeah, traded for this guy in midseason, and the offense is struggling, and they're probably going to lose the game without 2 kickoff returns. So can they get 2 of them? Yes, they can, and they win.
Would have been nice to see that game played without those 2 kickoff returns.
Would have been really nice to see the Patriots play a little special teams, but sometimes special teams comes back to haunt you in the playoffs.
Either Naheem Hines is the fastest human alive, or that number 30 for the Patriots runs a 40 like I do.
I think the latter is probably true.
Holy.
It's probably a combination of both, but closer to the latter. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, get predictions on the national championship game coming up tonight.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I'm good at enjoying myself.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, Mick. The three of us will give our prediction at the end of the show, but College Football National Championship, Georgia, TCU. Who you got?
I think Georgia wins. They're great. They're really good. So playing Mizzou, man.
That's right.
I'm going to say 40-30, another high-scoring game.
30, high-scoring game, but TCU still covers. There we go. TCU covers, Georgia wins. We'll see what ends up. Stetson Bennett, MVP. I mean, obviously.
Who else would it be? He's the best player
no
on their team,
idea.
right? Quarterback. It's got to be quarterback. If it's not quarterback, it's got to be maybe the other team's quarterback.
Yeah,
those are the only two
it's
options.
got to be Bennett or Duggan as the MVP tonight. Right now, leader in the clubhouse for the Super Bowl MVP is Patrick Mahomes. It's plus 300.
Super Bowl?
Yeah, Super Bowl MVP is Patrick Mahomes. You can bet on that right now if you want to. Thank you, Mick.
You bet.
Appreciate it. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Hear from the Chiefs next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You have no problem giving the credit pie when Marcus Kemp can't catch a bleeping football.
Whoa.
Sorry about that. When Marcus
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, thank you to Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. One more hour to go here on this Monday. Chiefs Victory Monday, winning 31-13 over the Raiders, finishing 14-3, the number 1 seed. The bye week coming this week, and an opportunity just to sit back, relax, and watch the games. An automatic win for the Chiefs. See who they'll end up playing. Odds are they're going to end up playing the winner of the wild card round game on Saturday night of Jags and Chargers. Odds are pretty decent in that favor. But we'll see. Maybe the Dolphins or Ravens can pull off some crazy upset, and the Chiefs would face off against one of those teams. I doubt that's the case. There are some pretty wide betting margins this weekend involving those teams, and so we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. 913-912-4810 is the text line, 913-912-4810. We'll hear from Andy Reid, we'll hear from Patrick Mahomes, and we will hear from Justin Reid here this hour. One of the things that I'm expecting over the next couple of weeks, maybe even more than that, we may reference at some point or often, going back and looking at the last 5 years of playoffs and teams that have had the bye, that last 2 years, only 2 teams get the bye. They've talked about that a lot. It's a big deal when there's only one bye week each and every year. Those teams went 0-2 last year. But before Green Bay and Tennessee lost in their first rounds of going 0-2, the team with the bye, their first game the previous 4 years was 12-2. So odds are you get the bye, you win that game. The 2 losses before that, Baltimore lost to Tennessee in the divisional round, which gave the Chiefs the home field advantage against the Titans in the AFC Championship game. And then Pittsburgh lost in the divisional round to Jacksonville in 2017, where then Jacksonville went on and faced off against the Patriots, with Blake Bortles getting those wins that are enough to tie Aaron Rodgers.
Two wins along the way. 2 wins makes you an all-timer. This is what we've covered.
I'd like to point out, I still have the same number of touchdown passes Aaron Rodgers does in the playoffs the last 2 years.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
The streak continues.
Yes.
I have more bathrooms in my house than Aaron Rodgers has playoff touchdown passes the last 2 years.
Teams with the bye overall the last 5 years to get to before getting to the Super Bowl are 19-8. Not counting the Super Bowl. 19-8 in the last 5 years. So, and should also point out that some of those games, some of those losses were back when 2 teams got the bye, and the matchup in the championship game, one of those teams had to lose. So just something to keep in mind as we talk about the Chiefs getting the bye, and whether or not that matters is a big deal. Last year, ultimately, it didn't matter. Titans and Packers both lose those games, but we also kind of talked about a couple of weeks ago that the Packers lost that game because they played an all-time bad special teams game, where they lost by 3 points, and they had a field goal blocked, and they also had a punt blocked that was a touchdown, the only touchdown for the 49ers, and the only other field goal that they had that was, besides the last drive that was a decent drive, they started in Packer territory because a kickoff return put them at the Packers' 48-yard line, in which they got a field goal there. And then Tennessee turned the ball over 3 times, twice in Bengal territory, once inside the 10-yard line. Those 3 turnovers, you lose the game by 3 on a last-second field goal by McPherson. That's how you get the bye and lose.
It doesn't make you invulnerable, but the 1 seed in the first round bye in particular is I said this on the schedule pre-show that we've done the last few years. It is the largest systemic advantage the NFL offers. Where it says, you accomplish this, here is your reward. You do not have to put your body through 60 minutes of NFL football this week. You have a 0% chance of losing the upset to whoever it may be. And think about if it was the Chargers coming to Arrowhead, or it wouldn't have been by the seeding this year, but the Dolphins with the backups, probably not that risky. But it's more than 0 risk. And when you're talking about when is McCole Hardman going to play, what is the impact on Frank Clark from the injury he suffered on Saturday, those things are so vital. And we played that clip from Andy Reid earlier as well from postgame where he mentioned it's also good for your health mentally. Like you're just able to have a bye week and then a little bit of a head start to get a little extra work in compared to other teams because you're planning for your few number of opponents. The back half of this week, they'll be back in the building. But a couple days off, rehab time for everybody. It's just a huge advantage to take when you can get it. And the Chiefs handle their business.
Last 5 years, the 10 teams in the Super Bowl, 7 of them had a bye. So just something to keep in mind.
Makes your path a lot easier.
3 have not had a bye. That would be Tampa in 2020. And then last year, 2 number 4 seeds with Cincinnati facing off against the Rams. 4 seeds, neither had a bye. Let's hear from Andy Reid. Gave us an update on McCole Hardman's status.
Yeah, so I thought he might be able to go this past week. That's a hiccup on my end. I mean, he's trying. I mean, he's trying to get this thing right, and it's just a matter of time. So really, day to day. Although he feels better today than he did on Saturday, so we'll just see how it goes during practice.
And then just to follow up, I'm not asking you to critique the officials. I know how you don't want to do that, but just it is such a fast game. You had a tackle on Patrick Mahomes where Max Crosby sacked. He had a good grip on the helmet, right? And the helmet's supposed to be part of the face mask. My question would be, do you anticipate there being change next year to reviewing at least those? If you can't review everything the way we've heard Bill Belichick say, that maybe that there'll be an umbrella of player safety or face mask type of things are used, that there could be a change in that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, listen, I sit in on a lot of those meetings, so there's always change going to take place. I mean, sometimes it's smaller than other years, but I know they'll go back and look. The league will look at everything, and competition committee will look at everything. So they do a pretty good job with all that stuff.
There was a play, and I can't remember who the quarterback was, that the quarterback was sliding up in the pocket and he ended up getting tackled, but he got tackled because the face mask was pulled down.
Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm. That was the play. Deshaun Watson gets pulled all the way down to the ground and then looked back at the refs, and they were like, well, I don't see. That was one of the more obvious face masks we've seen, but it wasn't called right in front of 2 officials. So, yeah, turns out it's poor, I would say. Also, Andy, what did you think about that the fun little spinning huddle play that resulted in a holding call on Creed Humphrey? Did you think that was a hold? You didn't. You don't have to say it. There's a blink twice if you think it was a hold. Okay.
Keep your Zoom muted if you have nothing to add from your own financial well-being.
Say nothing if you think it was a hold. Thank you. Andy Reid continues saying that they'll spend time being ready to face multiple teams while also working on their own stuff as well.
Yeah, well, you try. You don't know exactly, but a couple of teams we've played, a couple of teams we haven't. So we'll try to focus in on the ones we think that we have a chance to play most of all, but also cover all of them. And while we have time I'm saying as a coaching staff, and then we'll narrow that down for the players as we get them this week. Before we actually know for next week. So, but we'll work on some things that we need work on.
Hey, Coach, similar question to Aaron. I know you've had the bye week a couple times now. In your experience, what's the best way to treat it when it comes to the amount of rest you want when you guys get back in the mix? Just an outlook of your week until Monday.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the trick to it is the balance, and then how the players utilize their free time. So, and coaches for that matter. I mean, we've got to make sure that we keep on top of the scheme stuff too. So we'll see how all that works out. But yeah, that I tell you, that's a trick to it, is to try to keep the balance for the players, stay sharp, and coaches still can add a couple things into the guys into their mix, and then we go from there.
Interesting. You said the teams they may play next week. Couple teams they've played, couple they haven't. But, quote, focus in on the teams we think we've got the best chance to see. And then some other teams as well. So Focusing in on Jags and Chargers, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a little work on Miami and Baltimore because you haven't played them yet. But really, Jags-Chargers is what you're preparing for because you don't really give much of a chance of the Dolphins without Tua to go to Buffalo. And right now, I mean, we don't know the status of Tua, but I would guess that he's not going to play. Mike McDaniels has said, he's going to be day-to-day even into the offseason if it takes that long. Seems like it's kind of giving it away a little bit. And then Lamar Jackson, who knows what's going on there as well. But so Jags and Chargers, would guess also the best chance there. And finding the balance of being able to utilize that free time while also, still staying sharp and prepping and things like that. Andy Reid, Harrison Butker was pretty good on Saturday. Andy Reid says it was a pretty easy decision to have Butker active on Saturday.
Yeah, no, he was great with us communication-wise. So just like I'd say the same thing with McCole has been great with communication. So that ends up being important when guys are banged up a little bit. And so Harrison told us he felt good, and we trusted him with it and went with it.
Hello, Coach. I have two quick questions for you. The first is, how much do you think Patrick's experience in the playoffs will better serve him and the offense? And then, Brad, I'll have a second question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, experience helps. It is single elimination, so everybody's got to be sharp. It's not just Patrick. We've all got to do our job and do it well, knowing what the result is. So, but it doesn't hurt Pat to have the experience that he has. Yeah.
And lastly, Coach, I know you addressed Justin Reid about his comments ahead of the Cincinnati game, but pretty much since that game on, he's probably played his best for the Chiefs so far. I just wonder what you've noticed from him in the second half of the season, and obviously as being a leader for the defense.
Yeah, he's done a nice job in both those areas. I mean, he's worked hard, and it really, I think just being more familiar with the defense helps. I've noticed that with all the veteran guys that come in, just the familiarity of what you're trying to do and get accomplished, I think, is important. And you get that through reps, and normally it's game reps. So when teams are throwing you little different things that you've got to make some quick decisions on, with the options that you have within the scheme. So I think he's done a nice job there.
If you care about Pro Football Focus or not, or acknowledging one data point, the last 5 games for Justin Reid are the 5 highest graded games for him overall defensively of the season for him. That's the 5 games since the Bengals game. As Nate was saying there, since that Bengals game, he's played some pretty good football. What have you seen? And Pro Football Focus also agreeing that these 5 games have been his best 5 games of the season. That Denver game, and then on Saturday against Vegas, the 2 highest graded games for Justin Reid this weekend. Andy Reid continued and weighed in on the possibility of a neutral site championship game and overall the way the league worked it all out.
Yeah, listen, I was so tunneled in on the Raiders at that time when all this was going on. I know Clark and Mark and Brett, I have full trust in them and what they were doing with it. My main focus was trying to make sure we stayed focused on that game on a short week. And so I didn't spend a lot of time worrying about where we were playing or not playing down the road. And we've got to work on getting there. And that was more of a job for the people I mentioned there to do. And I thought they did a good job with it. So.
Hey, Andy, you were talking earlier about the sort of sense of balance when you have the bye week, and how I think the implied point there is also the trust in the players. And I wonder, if that's something by now that is overtly stated, do you have to talk about that? How much it speaks to the culture you've developed, that however you were able to handle that now with trust.
I think the guys, they understand all that. I mean, we had a meeting this morning, team meeting this morning, and we covered what is what we're going to try to do, attempt going forward here. So with practices and meetings and all that. So they're well aware of it, and
they understand. They understand the magnitude of where they sit right now and the opportunity that they have. There's not a lot of teams playing right now. It's a great opportunity, and you want to take full advantage of that the best you can.
20 teams are not playing this weekend. Only 2 of them actually matter in the fact that they're not playing this weekend, being the Chiefs and the Eagles. And so, yeah, I mean, to Vahe's point, I mean, this is the 3rd time with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback that the Chiefs have had a bye, that they are the, 1 seed or get a bye in the first round. And so 3rd time that they have an opportunity of knowing how to go about your business, what to do in that week off. Not everybody that's been there the previous 2 times is on this team. This is the first go-around for a lot, especially, obviously, all the rookies and everything. But it is a nice break for them, too, if we say rookie wall and you get towards the end. Okay, well, here's an extra little breather because, remember, this team got the bye week in week 8. It has been a long time since they have had a week off. They have been going every single week and playing close games and finding ways to survive in those closer games and win, and then get back to it the next week and play a closer game, find a way to survive. They've been doing that for 2.5 months straight, and now they at least get a few days off to rest, recoup, things like that. And the team meeting yesterday going through what the expectations are this week and then next week as well. But Andy Reid also not really paying attention. Neutral site, I don't know. I was focusing on the Raiders. I mean, we got a short week, man. I don't care who we're going to play down the road.
Basically a neutral site anyway.
Yeah, it's true. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and hear from Patrick Mahomes and Justin Reid next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Hey, you're in the room all by yourself, dude.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
No, you're all right. That's okay.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards, heading up until 2 o'clock. We heard from Andy Reid at the podium here today. Patrick Mahomes and Justin Reid to the podium as well. Here is Patrick Mahomes saying the Chiefs are used to handling bye weeks in the regular season and the playoffs by now.
Yeah, I think he has a great balance of the amount of time he gives guys off and the amount he gets guys in there to get them moving and prepare for that next week. And then obviously the coaches do a great job of game planning. I'm sure this week they'll game plan like 3 or 4 different teams and try to get a good game plan to the guys early in the week so they can execute it at a high level. And then he goes out there and we do what we usually do, man. And so he just has a great feel for the amount of time he gives guys off and the amount of time he has them in the building.
Hey, appreciate the time here. Among the many numbers we've been seeing is most yards ever for a quarterback. I'm just wondering if you have a favorite play from the regular season. I know the playoffs coming up, whatever, but bookending this regular season, if you have a favorite play that stands out to you.
Yeah, my favorite play probably would be the one that Jet in Denver, just because it was one where I legit did not think I was throwing the ball at all. I was just trying to get the ball out of my hands as quickly as possible, and then seeing it on the TV copy of it and seeing how it looked sweet. So that would probably be my favorite play of this season so far.
Patrick, this isn't the first time you've had a playoff bye. I just was curious, how's the best way for you to spend it? I know that the guys will get a day off, but you personally, how do you feel like you most benefit from this week here?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is obviously you don't know for sure who you're going to play. So what I'll do is I'll watch like a game or two of each team that we have a possibility of playing kind of each day, just kind of get a general sense of the team without being too much of a deep dive. Luckily, 2 of the teams we've already played this year, so I have a general sense of them already. But you do that. I can make sure you stay working out, stay moving around, not just sit on the couch all week. And then when we get ready to go next week, I just try to be prepared and ready to roll. So it's a little bit of both. You get off your feet and you rest, but you still move around enough that your body's in a good shape for whenever you get to the first playoff game for us.
It's different than the regular season playoff or a regular season bye because you know who your next opponent is. You know exactly who your next opponent is. You can watch their game. You can have a game plan or at least an idea of what maybe if you faced them already that year, what a previous game plan might have been. But there are 4 teams that they may face next weekend, and said he'll watch a couple of games of each of the opponents and try to get some rest, but also stay active. Patrick Mahomes says that he feels like the Chiefs are battle tested. They're ready for the playoffs.
Well, I think the way we play football games, I know the guys are willing to fight to the end. I mean, we had a lot of close games this year where we had to step up and guys had to step up in big moments. And even though it doesn't make it easy as a fan watching it, I think it shows that we have guys that will compete at the end of the games and make these plays to win football games. And so you're going to need that in the playoffs. I mean, playoff games, they're rarely more than even a 1-score game. It always comes down to the very end. And luckily that we've been in those games and we have guys that we trust that can go out there and make plays when they count.
Let's go next to Seren Petra. Go ahead, Seren.
Brad, and I'll have a follow-up. Patrick, stat came out today. You're the oldest starting quarterback from the AFC. You're not old, but you're the senior member. I'm wondering, not just, I know you don't feel old at your age, but your life's changed. And it is kind of a different era for you, right? It's not new anymore for you. I'm wondering how it feels right now, if it feels different because of that.
Yeah, I feel like it's changed. I have 2 kids now. I'm married. I'm kind of an old soul. So I am kind of the oldest. I am literally the oldest quarterback in the AFC. It speaks to the talent that we have in the AFC. And the guys that I'm looking around at are going to be there for a long time. So I'll be the old head in the AFC for a while now. And I'll try to use that experience to my advantage.
And then the other one is I'm curious how you feel you're playing. There was maybe some people nitpicking, right? Wins are all that matters. You're the 1 seed. A lot of people talking about the close wins, maybe not covering spreads. Just consider what do you consider the mindset of this team and how well you guys are playing right now headed into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think we're playing well, man. Defense has stepped up, played really good these last few weeks. Offensively, we've had good spurts. Obviously, we feel like we can play even better. I always feel like we can play better as an offense, but we guys, it's coming from everywhere. Kadarius has had big games. Sky's getting involved. Obviously Travis. We have guys everywhere getting involved, making plays happen. And so like you said, a win's a win. We're worried about winning, not covering spreads. So we'll try to keep that momentum rolling and get a win this week or this next week, actually.
All right, so there's Patrick Mahomes getting ready for the postseason and the bye week. It hits different when you hear that Patrick Mahomes is the oldest quarterback in the AFC. I don't know why, but the stomach kind of fluttered there of like, whoa, are we really getting to this point to where we're talking about Mahomes as the oldest quarterback in the AFC?
I think that is just in the playoffs.
Right, just in the playoffs. Yeah.
Of the projected starters,
teams,
or if you make it Lamar or Tua instead, all still holds.
The 7 teams, he's the oldest.
That's right.
Boy, that's quite the change from a few years ago when we're talking about the beginning of this run and, Mahomes and this fresh, new, baby-faced quarterback, gunslinger, second year in the NFL, playing in the AFC Championship game, third year in the NFL, second year starting, winning a Super Bowl. And now he's I'm married, I got 2 kids. I'm like, oh, my God, he's so old.
I mean, listen, if Tom Brady's any example, he's still got like 20 years left.
That's a good point, I hope. Still, though, just hearing that, like, hey, you're the oldest quarterback in the AFC playoffs. You shut your mouth. Damn it. Patrick Mahomes, though, saying that, look, he was confident that the offense would be good despite losing some weapons.
Yeah, I think it just changed me in the sense that you get a lot of different personalities, and you have to kind of motivate guys in different types of ways and keep guys going with the culture and how we do things here and see the bigger picture. And so for us, I think the biggest thing for me and becoming a better leader was I had to just learn that. I've been with guys I've been with my entire career, and I knew them personally. And so building those relationships with guys off the field and on the field, it helped me become a better leader and a better quarterback every day.
Hey, yeah, Patrick, I had the same question I asked you just about Coach Reed as well, which is, could you sense whether it be excitement, motivation, knowing that you guys were going to have to be different this year, and just how you saw him approach this year?
I mean, obviously he approaches every year with the mindset of how can we make every person on the team better. But I think he's built this culture. I mean, regardless, I mean, he knows how to get the best out of every single person in his building. That's why I wasn't worried at the beginning of the year if we were going to be good. And I think I told all y'all, I said, I mean, I've seen Coach Reed go the entire season without throwing a touchdown to a receiver and still winning like 11 games, man. I mean, he knows how to win football games. He knows how to set a culture and get the best out of every single person on his team. And so I knew if I just did what he said and I got the guys to follow along with me, that we were going to win a lot of football games. And now we just want to keep building and try to find a way to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a good point. You can win 11 games when you don't throw a touchdown pass to a wide receiver. Just because you don't have Tyreek Hill doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're going to stop winning games or throwing touchdown passes, or that Patrick Mahomes won't be able to figure those things out. But all he did was go out and lead the league in yards, lead the league in touchdowns, career high in yards, career high in completion percentage, lead the league in quarterback or QBR, lead the league in touchdown percentage without Tyreek Hill. So it turns out he's a pretty good player.
I still hold that year against Andy Reid, actually, because the fact that he couldn't find one touchdown for Dwayne Bowe is honestly embarrassing.
Didn't Dwayne Bowe, though, like fumble at the 1 yard line going into the end zone?
Sounds right.
And like an offensive lineman recovered it for the touchdown. It was like, wow, they cannot. It's just never going to happen. They cannot score a touchdown.
How many games do you think Patrick Mahomes would win with the equal version of Jason Avant, Donnie Avery, Dwayne Bowe, Frankie Hammond, Junior Hemingway, and Albert Wilson?
12.
You're probably right.
It's probably like 2 games worse.
Half of those guys are currently playing for the Ravens, I think. Jason Avant's a Raven.
The Ravens starting skill position players this week. Patrick Mahomes weighing in on what an MVP award would mean this time around for him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the MVP award is a special award that if you get it, I mean, you'll cherish that for the rest of your life, and I will for sure. It's something that I think you look back at more at the end of the season or at the end of your career, and you think about those great times that you had. I mean, it's a trophy that symbolizes the team that was around you, and so you think about those memories you have with those guys. Now you went to battle with them, and were able to win a lot of football games. And so, like you said, I mean, we're focused on the Super Bowl right now and trying to get there and win it. But obviously, it'll still be a big moment in my life that I'll be able to forever remember.
Yeah, would you maybe have a better appreciation for this one than the last one, given maybe you understand how difficult it is now?
Yeah, no, I definitely joke. I've joked with guys about it before, and I think winning the MVP or winning the Super Bowl again, I'll have a greater appreciation for it. I've been through the trials and the struggles of losing. And that first year, my first year starting, it was fun. I didn't know what was happening. I was just throwing the ball around, and you win the MVP, and I'm like, oh, this is what we do every year. I mean, we win MVPs, we get to the AFC Championship games and win Super Bowls. And now that I've been in the struggle of obviously not winning the MVP, but losing the AFC Championship games, losing Super Bowls, it builds a greater appreciation for the grind and how you have to come every single day to work not knowing that you're going to be at the top at the end of the season. And so we have a mindset that we're going to try to go and win that Super Bowl again. And that award and the MVP award both would be appreciated way more if I was able to get those.
It's going to be easy. Win an MVP, play in the AFC Championship game, right there to win a Super Bowl.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just throwing this ball around.
Just throw the ball around and win MVP awards. There is another level to winning multiple MVP awards. He would be the 10th player in history to win multiple MVP awards if he is named the MVP winner this year or at any other point in his career. So 9 players before Patrick Mahomes have won multiple MVPs: Johnny Unitas, Jim Brown, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Brett Favre, Kurt Warner, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers.
Pretty good list.
And hopefully in a month at the Super Bowl or whenever the awards show is or whatever, we'll be adding Patrick Mahomes' name to that. He also is the record holder for most combined yards by a quarterback in a single season. He was asked about breaking Drew Brees' record.
I haven't talked to Drew about it yet. But yeah, it's obviously cool. I got the extra game, so until a couple more seasons are played with that 17th game, I guess I'll have that record. But at the same time, that's stuff you appreciate after your career is over. I mean, stuff you think about after the season, and you look back on and think about how cool that was. But when you're in season, man, you're just so focused on the next game and the next opponent that you have to just kind of let that stuff kind of go by.
And I know you said after the game Saturday that, the number 1 seed situation is kind of weird. Now you know that if you and Buffalo make it to the AFC Championship game, they'll be on a neutral field. Was that resolution, you think, fair for you? And, what would be the thoughts of playing a game like that in a neutral site?
Yeah, I mean, nothing was going to be fair for anybody, I don't think. I mean, it's such a situation that we never encountered before. But at the end of the day, man, I was so happy that DeMar was doing better. And that's the most important stuff. And so him doing better and him being in a better spot, we were ready to do whatever scenario was going to happen. And so if that was neutral site, if that was going there, whatever it was, man, we were just ready to go out there and play. But we have to win our first game first, and so we'll just worry about whoever we play in that first round or first round for us.
Yeah, neutral site, wherever we end up going, got to win that game first. Got to win the first one. We'll see who that is coming up this weekend with the round of games, who they will be playing. We'll know that this time next week, who they will be playing in the divisional round. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear from Justin Reed. Also look ahead to the national championship game coming up tonight right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB starting at 7 o'clock. It's a Monday edition. Victory Monday for the Chiefs. It's The Zone.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to try to progressively make this show a little more unlistenable every day, which is a pretty tall task.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco Beards. We'll give some predictions on what we think is going to happen in the national championship game coming up tonight. Our coverage at 7 o'clock after Hawk Talk with Bill Self. I think the specific actual kickoff, it's 6:44:30.
Would I take
I'll take the over
or
on that.
under?
I think I'm going to take the over on that.
I think that's probably smart, but I wouldn't be surprised if Foot hits ball at 45, pretty close to 45 on the dot.
Yeah. So
can you bet on the over-under of like the national anthem and stuff for the college national championship?
I don't know.
I think you should be able to.
It's a great question. It's a great question. You know, Todd was talking about that Lee Sterling, we can hear it on Fridays here. His daughter was singing the national anthem at one of the games the last couple of weeks. I can't remember which one it was. And I said, are they allowed to bet on the national anthem in that game? Because I feel like he would have the inside track. Guys, I'm telling you, this is the lock of the century.
Yeah, really.
I don't do locks of the century, but this is the lock of the century. It is a guaranteed win. We're going under.
I was thinking you'd say the Duns. It just speaks. It is
and then
like
his daughter's like, "Oh, say, can you see
an
all the
Eminem
Duns are
cover.
Wow, that was like a minute under. I feel like
crazy.
Was she throwing off there? Like, well, I know. I mean, her dad's a handicapper, and he bet like $5 million on the under.
Hold the earpiece a little bit, you know. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to get through it.
Not sure. I'll get there.
The home of the brave. What? Wow, weird. That was
so.
a weird way to dismount there.
And Allegiant Stadium was apparently home of the Chiefs.
Yeah, noticed that.
Yeah. Justin Reed, it was home for him playing some pretty good defense against the Raiders on Saturday. Justin Reed at the podium saying that he's happy to sit back and watch some football and rest this weekend while they find out who their first playoff opponent is.
You know, for me, it's pretty simple. You know, we can't control any of those extenuating circumstances. We can't control where we play, when we play. The only thing we control is how we play and to be ready for that moment whenever that happens. So, however the cards were folded on the table, we're going to be prepared for it. It's fortunate for us that we were able to get the number one seed. That's something that we aim for at the beginning of the season. So congratulations to our team on being able to do that. And, you know, wherever we end up playing next, however these scenarios play out, wherever that location and time is, we're going to get ready to play, and we're going to play.
Let's go next to Herbie Tiopi. Go ahead, Herbie.
Just as a quick follow-up to Pete's question, and you mentioned all the moving pieces back there on the defense, especially on defensive back group. What point of the season do you think the light bulb came on and you were able to take some of the stuff that happened early in the season to get you to where you are now?
Yeah, you know, throughout the year, I felt like we were always very close. It just ends up being like a play here, a play there, a couple inches away each time. Say around the start of December, the confidence level in the room really started to take off. And, you know, guys were really confident in not only their own play and their teammates' play, trusting each other that we're going to take care of our responsibilities and being able to play off each other. And you see that, especially in this last game right here, all three phases, offense, defense, special teams, we're able to end on a high note. So that's big for us momentum-wise. We're going to have to continue to build on that. And we know that the road is only going to get tougher from here. So we're going to have to bring our best football going into when we play these playoff games.
Let's go next to Seren Petro. Go ahead, Seren.
Just I think the first 12 games, you guys had 12 takeaways. You bumped that up to 8 over the last 5 games. And I know that was something that Steve Spagnuolo talked about was maybe the next evolution. He pointed out some of your young DBs, not just being in position, but being in position, get your head around, be in position to make a play. You know, do you think you were maybe a little snake bitten at getting some of the takeaways? Maybe you guys were due, or do you think this is more than just a trend and more than just based upon maybe the level of opponent you've had that you guys can consistently take it away?
Yeah, well, you know, throughout this league, it's funny scenario, man. Like when they tend to come in bunches. So if I had to choose any time for year for them to really start getting hot, of course, we want to choose right now for the turnover, that turnover machine to start kicking into action. So really been ball savvy. Coach Spagnuolo and all the defensive skill coaches are really focused and harped on getting the ball out each year. But as the level of the defense and confidence of the defense has risen, we're able to make a couple more of those plays and have the ball swing our way.
They In the first 11 games of the season, they caused 12 turnovers. So they had 12 takeaways in the first 11 games. They have 8 in the last 5. So it has improved. They have gotten better at doing that. A couple against Denver, 1 against Houston, 1 against Seattle, and then 2 apiece the last couple of weeks against Denver and Las Vegas. So 4 of those 8 being against the Broncos. So, but hey, turning teams over, and that's what matters for this defense right now is figure out a way to get the ball back to the Chiefs offense.
Turnovers come in bunches because there are occasionally games where you play the AFC West in bunches, is how I'm reading this.
That's exactly right.
Turnovers come from the Raiders and Broncos.
Yes. He also said that around December is when this team started to turn the corner with that secondary and the defense and everything. So that first game of December was the Bengals game. And, that was the last loss so far this year for the Chiefs. Justin Reed continued. He was asked how the safeties have worked together this season.
Yeah, complete confidence in each other. Three-headed snake, all very smart players, understand route concepts, understand defense. Juan has been here going into his 4th year, but Brian Cook and myself can all play both roles. Brian will come in and sometimes be in Ron's role, sometimes be in my role throughout training camp. He even took some dime reps too. So we're confident in him being wherever he needs to be. And like I said, as the experience and the reps under the belt have started to accumulate, you're starting to see that value start to turn out on the football field. And it's a good time for it to happen.
Hey, Justin, another quick follow-up to the earlier question. You mentioned the start of December is when it started to come together. So safe to say after the Bengals game is when y'all had like little mini discussion and said this is what we need to do going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's a game we wanted to win. Very competitive team, talented roster they have over there. And that was also a moment for ourselves that we wanted to take it. And we didn't want to have another loss after that. So we're able to keep that going. Obviously, these next 3 games, we want to focus on the first game first, but it's a new season at this point. We have to go 1-0 each week. And we got to bring that same attitude and mentality since that week with us the rest of the year.
After that Bengals game, they gave up 28, 24, 10, 24, and 13. So at least 2 of the last 3 weeks, they've given up 13 or fewer points. Just that 28 and 24 with the Broncos in there. And, oh, by the way, that 24 with the Texans or whatever. But other than that.
There's an EPA chart that Ben Baldwin tweeted out earlier today that it's the team tier list.
Yeah.
So where the Chiefs line up here, the offense is not terribly surprising. They are first by head and shoulders. There are a couple logo lengths in first place on offense. Defensively, after 18 weeks, 17 games, they are smack dab on the middle. The point of the arrowhead is right on the red dash line for average, which is just above the 0 line for defensive EPA per play. And by the EPA per play measurement, the Chiefs have the best offense in football by a good margin and a perfectly average defense. And if I could just say, mission bleeping accomplished, because every one of us would have taken that entering this year.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what you've been wanting to see from the Chiefs for a while. Seeing how much it being weighted toward the late part of the season against inferior opponents and all of that will be interesting. It doesn't mean they're going to play like an average defense when all the offenses they face are above average. But where the Chiefs landed at the end of the regular season, the growing pains we predicted in the offseason with all those rookies in the draft class, this is pretty much where I think you wanted them to be when you wanted them to be at that spot. It could be better than this next year, but for this year, all these young guys getting in, including the veterans, and even Andy Reid mentioning that the vets needed time to get into the defense and figure out kind of why the parts move the way they do. I'm left very encouraged over these last few games.
Me too. And hopefully that continues. We'll see who they end up playing in the divisional round. Those games coming up this weekend. We know tonight, about 4 hours from now, 4.5 hours from now is when that game will kick off in the College Football National Championship game. 6:45 or so is when that kickoff is going to be. 7 o'clock our coverage starts after Hawk Talk with Bill Self. Mick had a 40-30 game is what he thought tonight would be Georgia winning. Beards, what do you think?
Georgia wins and they cover.
So not 3-2?
Wow, we're not getting a score? Even you're getting a cover.
Okay.
Wow.
Georgia,
like the under.
I'm just going to put down -12.
Where's the over-under at right now?
It's at the
63.5 is what I see on DraftKings.
Okay. What do you got?
I'm going to go 34-24, so TCU gets involved late there and covers it, but I'd really like to be wrong about that and just get a little hit-no-toad champion.
Some of this is heart. in wanting tonight's game to be fun. Oh, and I'm not picking TCU to win.
Okay.
Heart in wanting tonight's game to be fun in terms of the points that I'm picking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going 45-34.
Sign up with that too. I'd watch.
I think Georgia's going to score on TCU. Question is, can TCU keep up and score? I'll go 45-34.
My pick is not financial advice.
Yeah, mine is not either.
You picking the over makes sense, though.
I think Georgia wins, TCU covers, but that feels like what everybody's picking.
When's everybody ever wrong?
So then TCU will win, but not cover. Wait, that can't happen. We'll see. Hopefully it's a good one. Enjoy the rest of the day.